as a community, and how we bring our shared values into every conversation and decision. In Morrisville, we believe that our strength lies in our differences. We value the diversity of thought, culture, values, and beliefs that each family brings. We strive every day to help all of our families live connected, live well. My commitment as your mayor is to ensure that every person feels safe, welcomed, and valued here in our town. And it is my aspiration that one day, everyone not only feels welcome in Morrisville, but everywhere in North Carolina and across our nation. This June, we proudly celebrate Pride Month, an opportunity to honor the LGBTQ+ community and affirm that love and identity must be respected and protected for all. Just this past Friday, we hosted our Music in the Park Celebrates Pride event, where residents came together in joy, color, and solidarity. It was yet another reminder that inclusion is not just a value, it's a celebration. As we look ahead, we will also look back to the ending of slavery at our Juneteenth celebration. We remember a pivotal chapter in American history, when word of emancipation finally reached Galveston, Texas, more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. As President Obama once reflected, Juneteenth has never been a celebration of victory. Instead, it's a celebration of progress. Tonight, as we reflect on that progress, we also acknowledge the work left to do, ensuring that every member of our community has the resources and opportunity to thrive. As we open this meeting, let us bring that spirit with us. Let our actions reflect our shared dedication to inclusion, equity, and compassion. May our decisions honor every background and identity, and may our words and actions uplift rather than divide. Tonight, we recommit to a Morrisville that stands strong together, a town that models what it means to be connected, to be well, and to be truly inclusive. With that, let's begin. All who are able, please stand as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Staff has requested the addition of an additional closed session topic regarding personnel this evening. Before we adopt tonight's agenda with that addition, Town Council policy is to review and ensure there are no conflicts of interest or appearance of conflict of interest with any items on the agenda. Anyone on the council want to share anything at this time? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adopt this evening's agenda with the addition of one personnel closed session.
I make a motion that we approve this agenda this evening with that additional closed session.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Rao, a second from Councilmember Johnson. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries unanimously 5-0. There is one item on this evening's consent agenda. That's staff retirement recognition from K-9 Dillon. Would anyone like to pull that for discussion? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adopt this evening's consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Johnson, a second from Councilmember Fender. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that also carries unanimously 5-0. I apologize. Next on our agenda is proclamations. We actually have no proclamations to read during the meeting this evening. We are glad to recognize the state championships from Panther Creek and Green Hope High School before tonight's meeting. The other proclamations acknowledged by council are proclamation recognizing National Family Health and Fitness Day, proclamation recognizing Pride Month, and a proclamation recognizing Juneteenth. Next on our agenda is Morrisville Speaks, public comment. For those who have signed up to speak, please approach the microphone, stand when your name is called, begin by stating your name and residential address, and direct your comments to the council. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes to ensure everyone has a fair opportunity to share their thoughts. A timer will start after you state your name and address, and a buzzer will sound when your time is up. We appreciate your cooperation in helping us to manage time fairly for all participants. I'd recognize Town Clerk Bertling to let us know if there's anyone signed up.
We do have 2 individuals signed up this evening. Katarina Day.
The one you're in front of right now.
Thank you.
Katarina Day. I live at 130 Coatbridge Circle in Cary, North Carolina. I'm not a resident. We'll go from there. I've been in this area since 1979. I remember when Morrisville was best known for moving vans that got stuck on the train tracks, often for IBM employees. Y'all let a non-vendor eat a booth space at Morrisville Music in the Park Pride Edition last Friday. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Committee argued against this non-vendor's presence. They were to have final authority. Who overrode them? Why? The non-vendor's content defames the marginalized groups represented at Pride by accusing them of specific reprehensible behavior, yet arrest records show that those most likely to commit those reprehensible acts are often leaders among individuals like the non-vendor. Why was this defamation acceptable? Why weren't they ejected? The public belief is that the town manager and the town of Morrisville's legal counsel approved this non-vendor, but not the PRCR. Can this be confirmed? A public records search indicates that the town manager and the legal counsel may be ignorant about protecting marginalized communities at best and biased towards allowing harm to marginalized communities at worst. Did the town engage resources capable of protecting the marginalized before allowing these non-vendors? Morrisville and surrounding areas are where advance happens in North Carolina. It's where strangers rub shoulders, come together, exchange ideas, and create businesses that change the world. It's where the resources of mind, money, and material are dense enough to reach critical mass. Homogeneous cities devolving to polities where everyone agrees, and disturbing that status quo is the only real thought crime. The non-vendor seeks death by homogeneity. Do we want death by homogeneity? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Harrison Kessling.
Hi, my name is Harrison Kessling, and I live at 402 Mannington Drive, Morrisville, North Carolina, 27560. I appreciate the emphasis on sustainability solutions in the town center project. However, I am concerned about the value engineering measure to use asphalt instead of pavers on Foxglove Street. While asphalt may appear more cost-effective in the short term, it cracks more easily, traps heat, and requires more frequent maintenance. By contrast, permeable pavers improve stormwater infiltration and help to reduce the urban heat island effect. They also clearly signal pedestrian priority zones and are a place-making tool that would allow this street to become a pedestrian destination. The use of asphalt would hinder this. On a different note, I'm excited to see transit on the agenda tonight, and I look forward to hearing the discussions. I appreciate all the hard work that Transportation Planner Caleb Allred has put into the alternative transit study, and as a reminder, transit accessibility is another sustainability solution. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the people who have signed up. Town Clerk?
We do have one member online, but that was it for today.
Okay. Online meaning
Sorry.
we're
That
going to
was
read
all
that.
that had signed up in person. We do have one more online to be read.
Why don't you go ahead and do that, and then I'll ask the audience if anyone else wants to speak. Thank you.
My name is Bill Dukowitz. I'm a Morrisville resident and live at 1112 Justice Walk Avenue. I am a disabled Vietnam veteran, active in both VFW and the American Legion. I talk to veterans, and it is obvious that veterans and donors are turned off by the town memorial design. I would like to address the May 27 comments. I am a former member of the Veterans Memorial Foundation and support building a memorial, but we should do it right. It is a no-brainer that the town should work with veterans instead of attacking them. The foundation has good intentions, but they are out of touch with veterans. Let me say up front, my suggestion is not to build a rock garden for the memorial. We favor a community-based design like the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. A community-based memorial can be built for 10 cents on the dollar and not require $45,000 in annual taxpayer support. If the town can reach out to picketball players, why can't they reach out and talk to veterans? I have a disability from Agent Orange in Vietnam. Agent Orange is a terrible battlefield chemical. Most veterans share my view that the environment is important. Trees are important, and veterans would like the town to build a natural memorial, suggest a cathedral of trees. The only problem is that trees were left out of the town design. On May 27, the chairman said environmental concerns are at best premature. Maybe he should tell that to the veterans who have died from battlefield chemicals like Agent Orange or the burn pits of the Gulf Wars. Respect for the environment should have been a key design requirement. I am no longer on the foundation, but I am still a taxpayer and veteran. As a taxpayer, I am concerned with how my tax dollars are given to the foundation in 2022 with no transparency or accountability. Foundation has been operating for over 9 years and never issued a financial statement or report. Maybe the foundation should start recruiting veteran directors so they will better understand the veteran community. Foundation is not following the town's strategic plan and talking to veterans. At a recent VFW meeting, we took a poll on the town design versus community design. 39 people in attendance favored the community design and none preferred the town design. The town recently hired a consultant for advice on the strategic plan, but he did not look into how veterans were treated. You have to talk to veterans if you want to understand the real story. The town is not talking to veterans.
Thank you, Town Clerk Bertling. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address this body for up to 3 minutes? Okay. We are now at item 10, administrative reports. These are generally provided for information only. Does council have any specific questions regarding any of the administrative reports? There's 3 of them. I'd like to recognize Councilmember Fender at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. I first had a question about the smart shuttle.
Your name and your role for the record, please, sir.
Other microphone.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Caleb Ward. I'm the transportation planner responsible for the Morrisville Smart Shuttle.
Do you want to have the admin report up?
Sure.
Okay, I've got that.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go ahead and ask, I have 2 questions. The first is regards to the Sunday service. According to your graph on the bar graph in figure 9, it looks like there's a trend upward of percentage seat unavailable on Sundays, with April being a 19%. And I see that, so I know we added the second shuttle on Saturday, and that has been a huge help. And then it looks like it's anticipated we'll be adding a second shuttle soon. So it says the contract will be finalized during Q1 of fiscal year 26. And you anticipate to start running on Sundays in the fall. Do you have any more specific date?
I unfortunately do not. Go Carry has contractual obligations with their operations to hire drivers in both the spring and the fall. So we kind of have a rough timeline in the fall to hire drivers. And then, of course, with the support of legal counsel, we'll end up getting the contracts finalized in preparation for that time period in the fall.
So is the contract to be finalized, is that with us or Go Carry, or between us and Go Carry?
So that is actually a contract with battery manufacturer Forge Nano to help supply the funding for that Sunday service.
Do you know when that's going to be finalized?
I do not have a timeline on that right now.
Mayor, if I may, Councilmember, sorry, a little loud tonight. We're a little bit at the mercy of the federal government finalizing their relationship or their agreement with Forge Nano. Again, they're getting some federal funding, and as a part of that, that gives them those funds to invest into the community. But to our knowledge, they don't have those funds and that agreement finalized yet, so we're waiting for them.
So is that federal funding at risk?
Not that I'm aware of, but I just don't think they've finalized their agreement yet.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then my second question is regarding Saturdays. I'm looking for the paragraph. So we did extend the Saturday service with a second shuttle, but then it says this seat unavailable messages spike during the hours when there's only one vehicle on the road in the mornings and in the evenings, despite having similar overall demand. is there any potential for extending the hours of that second shuttle?
That has not been explored in funding at this time.
Say that again?
That has not been explored through funding at this time.
Has not been explored through funding.
So that the
So we
funding-
don't have the funding for it?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I got, thanks.
Does anyone else have any other questions on this item? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Allred. Councilmember Fender.
Yeah, so I had questions for Mark. Well, actually, just one, and I warned him ahead of time, so I'm not blindsiding him. With regards to the dog park, said it's gonna open in summer this year. Do you have a more definite timeframe?
Sure do. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Mark Spagnoli, Director of Engineering. Thank you, Councilmember Fender. We actually are making good progress on the project. Hopefully, everyone's had a chance to at least drive by, ride bike by, or walk by. We are looking at towards the end of July, early August to be completed. We'll have a ribbon cutting, obviously, and grand opening ceremony. The park is looking fantastic. They just finished the fencing. Most of the concrete work is done. They've got some asphalt already completed, so they're getting really close to finishing the project. I think the wonderful thing that the council provided guidance on was to maintain the tree canopy that's there. So if you go by, we have completed all the tree clearing, and as you can see, it almost looks like we didn't do anything because there's a tremendous mature tree canopy that stayed in place for the dog park. So it is an amazing product. I think one of my favorite parts is when you come to the entry point where you can go into the dog park areas or the dog play areas. You're standing sort of at a plateau and you can see into the entire park field and all the trees. It's a really beautiful setting. So, but yeah, to answer your question directly, at the end of July, early August.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome. And by the way, we do have a formal update coming to the next meeting where we'll go into all the details of the project and show you pictures and so forth.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Any other questions for our town engineer? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much for the
Thank
update
you.
and for the report. I'd like to recognize at this time that Vicki Johnson has joined us. I'd like to give her the opportunity. Is there anything on the agenda that would be a conflict of interest or perceived conflict of interest?
I do not believe so.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. At this time, we will move on to presentations. We have one presentation scheduled this evening. We now invite Caleb Allred, Planner 2, Transportation, and Connor Klassen, Transportation Planner from VHB, to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Caleb Allred, Transportation Planner. I just want to welcome Connor Klessen with VHB, who will be giving tonight's presentation to you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Pro Tem, and all in the audience. I just want to say my name is Connor Klassen with VHB. I'm a transportation planner. Just want to say on behalf of Jorge Luna, the project manager, he's sorry he couldn't be here at this time. He's still traveling in Japan on his well-deserved vacation. But next meeting, he looks forward to coming back and seeing y'all again. There we go. Thank you for being patient with me for this. All right, so for tonight's agenda for the Morrisville Alternative Transit Study, we figured we'd start with the transit purpose, about why we're here. Discuss our previous presentation to you as a quick refresher. We have a lot we've done in the last few months that we'd like to share, especially our schedule and our key highlights that have been done thus far. We've done a wide variety of outreach efforts and a in-person and online survey we'd love to share with you, and then move on to what's next for the rest of the study, and then open up for feedback from y'all regarding a few aspects we'd like some additional clarification on. So starting off with our study purpose once again, the reason why we're here, Morrisville is thriving and expanding, and demand for mobility continues to increase across all modes, especially with transit. The Morrisville Smart Shuttle has seen increased demand year over year, month over month since October 2021 when it was first realized. And the goal for this service was to provide mobility options for all residents of the community to be able to get around. But as the community continues to grow, the question becomes, what should this transit service be? What does it aspire to be as it continues to grow with Morrisville? So the reason why we're here is to evaluate the current service and identify some solutions that could meet the need of the community and fit the community's character as it continues to evolve. So our objective for the study is to, first of all, to evaluate the current service and look at different service models. For example, a fixed route service, which you see with Go Cary and Go Triangle, a deviated fixed route where the route can move slightly away from its actual route to service locations that may benefit those with mobility impairments, or a hybrid approach for that, which would allow for deviation by request, or improve microtransit. All these items and more can be on the table for the analysis. The goal for this is to, first of all, enhance and expand the mobility services for community members, as well as our visitors who are traveling within and to Morrisville. And we'd also like to identify our key riders of transit, whether it be our commuters, seniors, those with limited vehicle households with 0 or 1 car, who may benefit most for our enhanced transit opportunities to give them the greatest opportunity to move around Morrisville in the larger area. So a quick recap of what Jorge had presented at our last meeting here. We had our town council kickoff for this meeting back in February. During this time, he did a project introduction discussing the Smart Shuttle goals and objectives for the study, as well as the general takeaways that we're trying to aim here for. We talked about what we're doing for our public engagement approach and tactics, the project timeline. We invited y'all to give any feedback and comments at that time, and he discussed our next steps. So I hope for today we can elaborate upon those. So what we've done today and our schedule. So the schedule on your screen here shows where we're at. So for June was a fairly busy month for us. We are working towards doing stakeholder meetings in June and into July. We just wrapped up our engagement survey, of which we'll be presenting those results here shortly. We're doing our second town council presentation. So you all are right here, thank you. As well, we're going to talk about our evaluations and results summaries for what we have thus far, with more to come later on. As part of the system evaluation, we are starting to wrap that up right now with our ridership numbers and financial data that has been provided by Caleb and his team. So thank you very much for the data and assistance with that. It's much appreciated. And over the next few months, we'll begin to work towards our service influences, matrix, and evaluations for best possible services based off of the town character and data we're seeing, and move towards draft recommendations, final recommendations, and then the implementation roadmap for how do we get from where we are today to the recommendation in the future. So a quick highlight about what we've done to date. Again, we had our project kickoff back in February, where we discussed our scope, schedule, and timeline, our project management plan, and the public engagement plan, which both have been activated now. We've done our data gathering and analysis through peer identification, through shuttle performance review. We created a transit propensity index, which we'll discuss here in a few minutes, and a review of all pertinent plans and policies. We've also done fairly robust public engagement. We developed a variety of branded materials, done spring outreach, and had a number of first engagements with website content, project brochure, a variety of posters, and an engagement survey that was open for approximately 1 month. So here comes the fun stuff, talking about the data. So for the data source, we looked at every single ride between the operation date of October 2021 through, I believe, March 4th of this year. During this time, we had over 100,000 ride pairs that we were able to analyze through this data set. So the map to your right may look a little busy, but all it is ridership data based off of pickup and drop-off numbers. Some stops relatively new, so you're going to see little tiny circles which relate to the ridership numbers. That may not necessarily mean that they're not desirable stops. They've been implemented fairly recently. For example, Church Street was implemented earlier this year. So while it may be a tiny dot, again, keep in mind that it's a fairly new service location, so it's a little biased on the data there. What you really should be looking at is the nodes with a balanced pickup and drop-off. What you're seeing, if it's equal part green for pickup and equal part yellow for drop-off, it's a balanced stop. So people are trying to get there and leave there through the shuttle. If you're seeing a skew part of it, for example, the Wake Tech RTP campus has many more pickups than drop-offs. So folks are getting there via one-way, but leaving through the Smart Shuttle. We also see that the Wake Competition Center, both north and south, are unbalanced. Again, these are relatively new stops here. So again, that is a little bit of bias. But because those stops are so close, some folks may be choosing to board and to be picked up at different locations because those stops are so close together. So things to keep in mind for that as well. You'll see a variety of lines connecting all of our nodes here. Those are all your origin and destination pairs for node 1 to node 2. And what we're seeing through this kind of spaghetti map here is a strong desire for crosstown connections. For example, Morrisville Carpenter to Park West Village 2 node over the course of the shuttle lifespan had about 1,400 requests to travel across town. Kitts Creek to Park West Village 2, about 1,300 requests, and the Crimmins Corner to the Regional Transit Center, just over 1,000 requests during this time. So while you're having to facilitate localized movements, you're also seeing crosstown movements being a predominant movement here. So the next item here is what we're calling our Transit Propensity Index. So the TP, as we're calling it, is an index of 12 different factors listed below that we analyze for both Durham County and Wake County because you're on the part of both of it, and your transit area kind of extends into both sections there. Those factors were weighted based off of quartiles for the entire 2-county region, and then assigned a score between 1 point to 4 points for each item, which will eventually get into your transit propensity index. The higher the score, the higher transit propensity. So what is transit propensity? It's the likelihood that someone in this census block group that we are looking at through census data will be likely to take transit to their destination from their origin point. So the map here on the right, the darker the color, the more likely that area is to have transit riders. So what we're seeing for Morrisville as a whole, it's indicating that we have a moderate level of propensity compared to all of Wake and Durham counties. Not super high, not super light. It's pretty indicative for a town of your land use and population density, which indicates that we have desire for transit, but we're still fairly car dependent overall. But there's ways to improve upon that with the right transit mix. So taking a deep dive into the Morrisville Smart Shuttle itself, so the data here is from October 2nd through March 4th, 2025. We have 4 charts here. The top left is our trip completion status. So for all eligible trips that were requested, 88% of those met demand, whereas only 12% did not meet demand. So whether it be a seat unavailable or it just wasn't able to be processed at that time, only 12% of trips were not able to meet demand overall for the entire lifespan of this project. When asking for a wait time, once the ride is officially requested, about 30%, 1 in 3 rides are waiting about 10 to 20 minutes, and the other 1 in 3 about 30 minutes or more. Fairly standard what you're seeing for microtransit across the state. Is a little on the higher side compared to the entire state, but nothing that is red flags for very long wait times overall compared to North Carolina peers. National peers is a little bit different. Looking at trip travel time here, about 82% of all your trips are under 20 minutes. Again, indicative of your cross-town travels and localized movements within Morrisville itself. And then when people are requesting the shuttle to be pick them up and drop off, you're seeing a large peak between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., 4 p.m. being your major peak through the entire lifespan of the shuttle, with your main service time being between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. We pull back a little bit and looking at our studies for the area. VHB has developed a summary matrix of our current plans, studies, and policies to help gain insight and inform what we're doing to help shape the recommendations for what we're seeing locally and regionally. The matrix itself includes land use plans, multimodal studies, various public feedback, and regional and local transportation policies that will help us inform recommendations for the next step. We also looked at the town of Cary microtransit study to identify locations in their jurisdiction. So in case any of the feedback we get from our public engagement says, hey, we want to have transit here, we may be able to shift those burdens onto the town of Cary with their microtransit studies instead of Morrisville picking those up, or have some sort of agreement between the two towns if applicable. So discussing our outreach efforts, just a little bit of numbers here. We did the farmers market on May 10th. Thank you, Caleb and team, for doing that one. Through May 10th, we had about 50 completed surveys. Springfest was our big event on May 17th. It was a very fun, well put on event, so great job town for that. It was very fun to explore that during my little break I had. We engaged over 250 community members, which is amazing for a pop-up event of this style. We were to pass out over 75 informational survey brochures to interested residents and visitors. And we had over 70 unique dot placements on the in-person interactive map, which the photo shows the woman placing where she'd like to have transit, either new transit locations or enhanced transit. We also had 3 senior center and living facilities presence helping out with survey technical expertise and just general information sharing. And in total, the online survey had about 158 total responses. We did also engage the senior population. Town staff provided study materials and distribution to the Morrisville Senior Center, Brewer Point Senior Living Facility, and Preston Point Senior Living Facility. And they also supported with helping seniors take the online survey at the Morrisville Senior Center and Preston Point Senior Living Facility. These are some fun photos of how engaged we were at the Springfest event. Folks here were very enthusiastic about the Morrisville Smart Shuttle. Some folks didn't know about it, but they're excited to learn more and hopefully ride it soon. We got fairly good feedback, and again, it was pretty busy despite the rain and then the heat of the day. We did see a few of you there, so thank you for stopping by. For those who did, it was very nice seeing you. So let's talk about our findings from the public outreach. So for in-person engagement, the photo to the right here is all those little dots that folks had placed. We had about 66 total responses on there, some repeats to get you your semi number. The top choice of folks for the in-person was the RDU Airport with 8 selections. Followed very closely by the Indian Creek Greenway, and we're calling the Town Services Complex, which is these buildings right here. We also had Cedar Fork Community Center and the relative neighborhoods surrounding it with 5, the Twin Lakes Center with 4, and McCrimmon Corners also at 4. We do want to note that just because there's a selection there, folks may know there's a node there, and that's just saying, hey, we like this node, make sure we continue to service it. So if you're seeing, hey, we already have service here, it's just some of the folks saying, we really like this node here, please continue to serve this area as we move forward in this study. With the online survey, we had 221 mapped locations. So instead of doing individual dots, which makes this map very busy, we did a little heat map. So the brighter yellow, the more intense color is where you're seeing the clustering of where you'd like to see transit. So Park West Village nodes 1 and 2 on the bottom right of the town had the highest amounts with 20 responses, followed by Morrisville Market and Grace Park at 13, MAFC Campus High Apartments at 11, and Twin Lakes Center with 9. RDU Airport again showed up with 7 responses. The Walmart location to the north, just inside Durham, with 7, and then the market at Perimeter Park also with 7. So we tally these items up. We have our top 6 responses of potential locations that the public likes to see. Park West Village, 23 combined. Morrisville Market and Grace Park with 15 combined. RDU Airport, 15 combined. The Town Services Indian Creek area, 14 responses. Twin Lakes Center, 13, and the MFC Campus High Apartments with 13. I do want to point out, though, with the RDU Airport, while it's an area of desire, that area would require a little more study with access into the airport with a smart shuttle, any usage fees in there. So it'd be a lot more intensive study on top of that for that one stop if we were to look into that airport location to make sure that we have opportunities to service our transit into the airport area. Continuing on for our key insights from our survey, we asked folks where do they like to travel within Morrisville. Shopping, home, and work are our top locations. Hopefully not too much surprise there. What I found interesting were secondary locations, libraries, parks, community facilities, schools, and entertainment all fell about the exact same number, about 20 to 25 responses each. And healthcare, while important to the community as a whole, didn't seem to be very important in relation to the other destinations within this survey. When asked about how often folks travel within Morrisville, our top 3 responses were either multiple times a day, a few times a week, or daily. Multiple times a day and daily tend to be those who live in Morrisville, and a few times per week tend to be those who are coming into Morrisville to visit. When folks do move around within Morrisville, overall majority, of course, are driving. But that was interesting. The second response was public transit, whether that be through the Morrisville Smart Shuttle or any of the fixed route bus systems in the area was the second most choice of movement within the area. Also interesting, riding with someone, rideshare, was number 3. That far exceeds what we normally see on a survey and what far exceeds North Carolina and the US for movement within a town of this size or a city such as Raleigh. When asked about the insights about the Morrisville Smart Shuttle themselves, about 60% have said, yes, I've used the Morrisville Smart Shuttle. About 1/3 said, no, I haven't tried it yet. And about 9% said, I've tried it, but I don't use it anymore. When we asked those who do use the Morrisville Smart Shuttle, how often do you use it? They said a few times a week, which is pretty good. Daily came in about 15%, and multiple times a day, about 6% overall. So folks who are using it, they're using it to supplement some of their trips throughout the week without having to take their car. When asked about their overall experience with it, about 2/3 said they're either satisfied or very satisfied with the Morrisville Smart Shuttle service, where about 20% said, I don't really have strong feelings either way, and 19% said there's some improvement that could be made to better my experience with the Morrisville Smart Shuttle. So we asked them, what are your challenges that you face with the Morrisville Smart Shuttle? And they said long wait times, limited operating hours, and lack of accessibility. And access could be making me able to get to the nodes or the nodes not being where I would like them to be. We noticed that service is unreliable, difficulty in booking, and the coverage area does not meet my needs are fairly minor topics compared to these other 3. We did ask the former riders of the Smart Shuttle about why they no longer use the service. Again, long wait times were the highest answer. Long travel times with having to pick up additional riders or to deviate to different locations to increase their travel time was a negative impact to them. And then limiting operating hours hindered the desire to take the transit. The current service area tends to be the second highest area of concern for these former riders. And while some folks say that the difficulty in booking discourages the former riders here, it tends to be a fairly low number. I do want to say that while this chart does, see fairly concerning for these numbers, we only had 14 responses on this, so take these numbers a little bit grain of salt. That while these are valid concerns, it makes up a small percentage of the overall survey itself. Finally, we asked the folks, when considering a new transit form, what do you find to be most important? Frequency of service, time spent waiting for a ride, reliability and punctuality, and how much it's going to cost me. And then we asked them a similar question, when you're trying to use transit, what are the things? Once again, reliability, convenience, the wait time, and how much it's going to cost me. So not only do we be cognizant of reliability and our convenience to it, making sure it's affordable for all, whether it be the Morrisville Smart Shuttle as it is now, or a new form as the study progresses. And we asked, if you're keeping the Morrisville Smart Shuttle as is, what do you want to see more of? 2/3 said we want to see more options to get there, whether it be additional nodes, door-to-door, curb-to-curb service, or something else. We want to see existing service be expanded upon. More drop-off pickup nodes, again, kind of the same factor there, and then more consistent pickup times. I'm requesting a ride, I want to see that I'm going to be picked up in 10 minutes on average or 20 minutes on average, and not these, 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there type thing. A quick demographic breakdown, a vast majority were 25 to 64, 9% were 65 and older, but we also had a number of youth respond to the survey as well, with 9% were able to respond back to us. They did have limited questions on there to make sure they had their privacy and anonymity as part of that, but they were able to answer the majority of questions. And then how long people have been resident in Morrisville, most of them more than 5 years. So I know I threw a lot of data at you, so a quick little key takeaway here to just kind of wrap that up. Our map results showed demand for transit access is highest along the NC54 corridor and to the west, with access to shopping, home, and work as our top priorities. Nearly 60% of the Morrisville Smart Shuttle users have a favorable view of the service compared to just 19 with some sort of unfavorable view. Typically, survey respondents use the Smart Shuttle several times a week. When looking for using transit, they care about wait times, operational hours, and the service area. And in selecting a new service, folks want to make sure that we're looking at frequency, reliability, convenience, and of course, affordability. So where do we go from here? So our next steps, we're going to finalize the current system evaluation, move on to our technical evaluation of service models, including making a matrix of different transit models and their associated metrics as part of that. Provide you a technical memo summary of service models and develop high-level ridership estimates, as well as develop a transit service analysis report and an implementation roadmap. A quick little view of what these matrices could look like. We have 5 sample service types here: high-frequency routes, local routes, microtransit, which would be Morrisville Smart Shuttle would fall under, deviated fixed routes, which is a hybrid approach to a fixed route, and commuter routes. For example, here, looking at supportive land uses, so urban mixed use, wide range of uses, low density, neighborhood suburban mixed use, and how well those would fit within the context of Morrisville itself. So for example, microtransit and deviated fixed route have high applicability based off of the town character as is. Again, thinking very high levels. These are just very first rough drafts of what this will look like. Again, doing a quick analysis of our main themes that we saw from the survey: affordability, frequency, reliability, punctuality, and convenience. These are how the metrics would kind of be measured against what we're seeing now. Microtransit traditionally across North Carolina and across the country tends to be a bit more expensive for riders to use because it's considered a premium service. They typically pay a little bit more. It being free is a bit more of an outlier across our peers and across the area. So for us, it'd be a $1 sign or no dollar sign compared to more expensive we're seeing from our national peers. Frequency tends to be a little bit more lower because you're calling it on demand with medium reliability, punctuality, and then convenience tends to be medium or high depending if you're going node to node, which it is right now, which offers about medium convenience compared to door, which offer very high convenience for folks. So our next steps, again, we're wrapping up our service review. We're kind of in that in-between period to our transit analysis, and then we'll end up in our recommendations here in a few months. So our finalized next steps here, we're hosting our stakeholder meetings to gather targeted feedback in the next month or so, identify and screen our selected service models, provide you your draft recommendations, and hold a second public engagement touch point, in which case we'll come back here to present the draft recommendations to council, and then have our final recommendations presented once again to council and have our conclusion of the study. I did talk a lot during this time, so thank you for your attention. This is the time I'm going to turn over to y'all for feedback. Before we kind of move into the council questions, if anyone had any general questions first before we move into the targeted feedback that we're looking for, happy to take those.
Thank you, Connor. I'd like to recognize Councilmember Scroggins Johnson first.
I would recommend that we each speak once, just because of efficiency. And I am prepared to answer some of your questions as well.
Okay.
Okay? First of all, really love the shuttle. I appreciate the fact that it's been running several years. I was a strong advocate of getting any shuttle service to the town. So this is great that we're kind of lowering our response times. Response times still tend to be higher than our target. I think there's about half is less than 30 minutes and about half is above 30 minutes, depending on the time of day. There's a multitude of factors. I think if we look at the metrics more closely and understand, at peak times, we're seeing even more unavailability, or if ridership becomes increasing at other times, we could adjust our, I guess you would say, software or schedule to see if there's better ways that we can increase ridership, but not always have people on the shuttle an hour because we're stopping every 5 seconds kind of thing. So it's a careful balance. But one of the things that I have seen in other municipalities is this microtransit framework. And let me just confirm with you this definition that I understand it to be. And if it's not the same, then, I'll simply shift. But microtransit, is that point to point, meaning doorstop to doorstop? Or is it kind of a node to node?
So it's a spectrum. So it can be node to node, street to street, or door to door. So there's different factors of it. It's just a preference of the community of how they're setting it up. So throughout North Carolina and across the country, we see a wide swath of all three options.
Okay. So one of the kind of nomination is we've been pushing very hard to neighborhoods as well as to retail opportunities and also town amenities. So those three things, I think we have grown our node population. We've recently explored adding senior communities to that, and I don't know if that has fully been supported and funded, but that is one thing that I've heard from other council members. But one thing I haven't mentioned before that I thought I would add to your list about other locations would be about looking at medical facilities. That includes general medicine, pediatric medicine, dentists, specialists, so that we can further enhance the safety framework for people. They could take a shuttle and safely get to their medical appointments. The challenge with medical appointments is they're a certain time, and if we have wait times that are not consistent, people will not feel comfortable taking a risk necessarily. So we've got to get that reliability down a little bit, but I would like to see more access. And in Morrisville, we have a blend of some smaller practices within the shopping center. So that naturally is a complement, and there's access today, but other areas where there might be more of a larger facility, there isn't a stop. And we have some urgent care as well as some specialty areas that really are not covered in our current framework. So that exploring that option as a potential, and then seeing what might be feasible based on funding and other factors would be helpful to know for me. So I actually would like a microtransit. Our town is really small. It's not like we're having a large area to cover, but point to point would be nice, and I think it would increase reliability. The capacity is another issue. It depends on how frequently our riders are going to be, but a microtransit would offer people a lot higher service and more reliability. And the targeted rider are really everybody. But the individuals that either cannot drive or would choose not to drive, like both the seniors and the youth population would be my target for that transit service. Thank you.
Thank you. And to confirm, your preference is community transit service as a whole for all users and abilities, correct? With a focus on seniors, those who choose not to drive, and limited vehicle households.
Right. I mean,
Okay.
it's like anyone in the community, however, being more mindful that certain populations might need more access to these services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did anyone else have general questions or want to start answering these questions? Councilmember Fender, please, followed by Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, so, my main question was, how do you define reliability? Is it consistency? Or whether the smart shuttle is gonna break down or not?
So it's not about whether the smart shuttle breaks down. It would be a consistency of it showing up on time within the estimated wait time for you. So if it says 10 minutes, it should be there within approximately 10 minutes, plus or minus a grace period. As you see for local fixed route, it would be the same for microtransit, depending on, of course, things like traffic, which would delay it.
But does it include, because I think a consistent theme that we saw in your presentation from your results is long wait times.
Yes.
And that's a challenge for a lot of people, and it came back as, that's a lot of the reason why previous riders have used it and no longer use it, is because of the long wait times, and I'm one of those people. So does reliability include the fact that how reliable it is when you go to request it, that you're actually gonna be able to have a shuttle?
Yeah, that's also part of reliability. One of the great things about the smart shuttle is that it's free, which also has much higher demand for a free service compared to a paid-for service. So of course, with funding constraints of how many vehicles we can have at a time, would of course impact the availability of rides. So that again would play into the overall reliability of requesting the shuttle and it being within a acceptable on-time performance once their wait time has been quoted.
Okay. My second question is with regards to the, your table, for the technical evaluation of potential service models, the local routes, fixed route, and I was curious as to why Morrisville, rates as medium applicability for the local route.
Yeah, so it's based off of the neighborhood and just general context that we have right now. So Morrisville tends to be a bit more spread out, lower density with pockets of density and shopping opportunities. So local routes tend to be a bit more of that moderate to high density locations with opportunities for employment, retail, and recreation spaced out fairly evenly. So we do have that as part of some locations in Morrisville. It's not the theme throughout the entire area. So therefore, you'll see areas with high ridership demand, and then a lot of it have low demand where no one's getting on and off for quite some time.
I see, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and answer these questions too, as Councilmember Scroggins Johnson suggested. So the first question, no, I was happy to see that there was a lot of response from individuals requesting a location, a node at RDU, because I have heard that from others, and I could see that being a need. The service model that I would like to further consider is possibly the deviated fixed route or just the local route. Because somehow I believe we need to decrease the long wait times and we need to have more consistency. I think that will bring a lot of ridership back. Because I think for me, it's the using public transportation should be, I think we need to change people's perception of it, so it's not just used, I mean, yes, it appeals to seniors and younger people, but we need to widen it to be, to service everyone. And like, I would love to use the shuttle more than I have. But what prevents me is the consistency of not knowing when I request it, you know, what the, wait time, or even if I'm gonna be able to get the ride. So I think whatever, I mean, we need somehow to have more consistency, reliability, as far as being able to know, like if you have a doctor's appointment or class at Wake Tech. And I think that's why you see more need for pickup at Wake Tech versus drop off, because people trying to get to class by a certain time can't rely on the smart shuttle to get there on time. So they don't take it. I forgot where I was going with that. But overall, I think we need more consistency. One of the things option I don't see on here, and I've heard it suggested every now and then, is having two shuttles, one having a fixed route and one being on demand.
So it'd be like a hybrid approach.
Yes, but is that's not, is that what the hybrid you defined?
Yeah, so hybrid here, again, could be an example of that, or it could be something like a deviated fixed route, where one could run that fixed route and the other shuttle could be a on-demand style. So while not defined explicitly in the table, that was more of an example for what it would look like. Hybrid could include, again, the two shuttles, one running fixed route, one running microtransit style service.
Well, to me, that's two totally different designs. If it's between a deviated fixed route and having two shuttles, one doing a fixed route and one on demand.
So both could be explored.
Okay.
Yeah, we're open to any factors right now. We're in the process to identify which models would be the best for the analysis.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm in favor of looking at a hybrid, the deviated fixed route, not so much the micro transit unless it is part of the hybrid. And so I've already talked about the considerations that are important to me is really the wait time and reliability. And like I said, the targeted rider of this service really should be everyone. We need to open it up to more people. Yes, we need to meet the needs of seniors, but I think we need to make it so it appeals to a wide range of individuals. People that wouldn't typically consider using public transportation should be able to use our smart shuttle. That's all I have. Thank you.
Appreciate your feedback.
Councilmember Johnson, followed by Councilmember Rao, please.
So, thank you for the presentation and the update. I have a question. I'm making an assumption, and I want to make sure that I'm assuming correctly. In your presentation, you talked about the Twin Lakes Center. Remind me, is that the commercial center on Davis Drive you're talking about?
Yeah, it's the commercial center, the Wegmans, I believe, in there.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that what that shopping center is called? I guess I never knew that was the name of the shopping center.
I always call it the Wegmans Center, so same.
Yeah, I know, but I just know about Wegmans too, but, so I'm glad that popped up, not, that's actually, that whole shopping center is in the town of Cary. But across the street is the Wake Med Medical Center that I could see being really important. And I know in your presentation, you talked about health came in kind of last on all the uses, or the destinations rather, that folks wanted to go to. Health was at the bottom, and that could potentially change now with this facility open and all that it offers our residents. And that facility is in the town of Morrisville. So I'm glad to see that pop up. So thank you for that. I get the going forward, and maybe you all had touched on this somewhere in these presentations, but when we do start talking about other service models to consider, one thing I'd like to know is how flexible each one of those models may be. Like and again, my impression is that what we are doing now gives us some flexibility because we've been able to add nodes pretty easily in the last couple of years as we've studied the service and the needs of the community. And so I'd like to know that when we're studying other models, how easy it will be and how flexible they will be to adjust to our community as time goes on. And I don't even know whether these models are gonna be easy or not, but that would be important to me as we're evaluating. So I just want to get that out there. And then as far as your questions, I think you've gotten feedback from the community about the location, so I'm really good with where we are there and the sites that were identified. I guess I'm a little confused with the second question about service models. Are we not looking at all these different service models in this whole process or not?
So we are looking at them. It's just that anything popped out to you or your thought was, I really am all for local route and I really want to explore local route. That's this time to make it known that I like local route more than I like microtransit. So let's really take a look at that one a little bit deeper, is what this time is for.
Okay, thank you for that. I think they're probably all important to look at, and I would tell you the one I don't think is gonna be a really good fit for us, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is the high frequency routes, the fixed route with high frequency. I'm not sure that one is a great fit for us, but if I'm wrong, you tell us when you come back again. But I'd like to kind of, especially the local routes, I would look at the microtransit, although that's what we have already is microtransit. So we kind of already have a feel for that, but I would look at local routes, the deviated fixed route and the hybrid. I definitely want to know if any of those would be a better service model for our citizens and how that works. So, so that would be that'd be my feedback on that. Oh, and I just told you that one I already answered. I want to know how flexible each of these options would be and how we can tailor them moving forward. And then
Councilmember Johnson, will you put your mic on, please?
Thank you. I thought that. Thank you. Okay.
So can you
I'm not starting over. So sorry. I'm loud. One of these mics picked me up. I just know it. But anyhow. And then targeted riders, definitely the data you just presented or we've seen talks about younger non-drivers and then older seniors look like they're using our service now. So so I would still focus on them, but I like you've heard, I think we need to make sure it's available to all. So I'd look across the spectrum of folks that you could think of here in the community, and that's it. That's all you asked for, right? Okay.
Thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rao, followed by Mayor Pro Tem Garamella.
I think that, first of all, I agree with the public input of the different points that our on-demand transit system or more Smart Shuttle is doing. Based on my experience with transit, I really do prefer, I think a lot of it just depends on frequency. Like Councilmember Fender said, I mean, if people want to get somewhere on time, that's one of the reasons why sometimes I don't use transit, because I need to get somewhere like within a specific time. And recently, even when I travel, I just prefer ride sharing or Uber or Lyft to get me where I want, even than just going like on a metro. So for me, I like this idea of microtransit as well, because I do believe that we're dense enough in Morrisville that if we could have something that would expand the network of where they could go, whether it's healthcare, whether it's schools or whatever. I know it might cost more, but I know that Wake Forest recently is moving to a microtransit. And at the League of Municipalities Conference, we went to a few presentations where local communities were benefiting from the microtransit, which really made me think about it. So I don't know whether, so anyway, that's just feedback for you in terms of what I would like to see. And then in terms of, yeah, I think the folks benefiting from it, I think we hit it on the nail. Seniors, commuters, leisure trips. Based on my personal experience, even like high school kids, like my son used the Smart Shuttle when he was in school, when his mom was working and I was working, just to go to the MAFC to work out or to go to the park to play tennis, and then he could take it back. And so it was really a convenience to the family that at that time, he didn't have a car. So even when you have, a challenge of having another car, you've got two kids, how are you going to share the car? Which is happening now. Got one daughter moved, but for a while there was only one extra car. But having this service could help that family, so they wouldn't have to go buy another car or rent another car. So those are just some basic feedback. I don't know what the microtransit, compared to what we have, would it be something that we would look at and see whether we could add that to part of the service, or would it have to be completely, looking at different models?
Yeah, so the Morrisville Smart Shuttle is a form of microtransit as is. It's a node-to-node based microtransit. So again, there are other options such as curb to curb or intersection to intersection. So it's a bit more dense than nodes would be. And then it's also door to door, where you pick up your house and go exactly to your destination without having to walk, roll, or bike once you get off the transit shuttle itself.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Mayor Pro Tem Garamella, followed by myself.
Thanks. After listening to everyone, I think I have two trains of thought. One is the locations. I think we should tie up with Cary in terms of stops, because we are so intertwined. A same bus stop can be used for both because it's in their pathway. You can have one near Twin Lakes, or the Twin Lakes Center. It's even they can participate because I don't see anything from their transit area on the West Cary side, because they don't have anything. But that is about the nodes. I've heard about the RDU, but again, that one train of thought is fine. RDU is good, but if someone from Breckenridge are going to RDU, how much time is it taking, and how much time is the frequency weight increasing is also a point, because it's good for me. I don't have to use Uber. I'll go to the airport, I'll come back, but that's affecting rest of the entire, because we have only two. And if two people go two different directions, the wait times just increase automatically. That's one thought process. But I am a big fan of microtransit. And the reason I say that is, honestly speaking, I looked at the study in Colorado. They used Lyft and Uber service. One ride right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Caleb, it's $45, right, for a ridership? 35. So $35. My mom, last week, I was busy. She went from Breckenridge to HSNC. It was $12 on Uber. So if a microtransit, instead of these two buses, if we can basically open it up to like Uber services kind of a thing, because then what it will spur from point to point, it will increase more frequency. People can go more easily than the nodes, and because we are only 9 square miles, it's not a whole lot you can go that would cost a whole lot. 35 or basically microtransit with shared. That is one thing I have seen very effective too. So microtransit with shared, like Uber service kind of a thing, it will almost, your ride is coming to $5 or $6, but you're able to take 7 people at the same time for the cost of $35 that we're using for the ridership. So that opens up the whole thing. Then the target audience is not just seniors or anyone. It will be a lot of people who want to, take person A from there to the to the clinic or back and forth, or to the practice and back and forth. But I think we had to set a standard. There's no unlimited money or something like that. But I don't know the standards. But the money that we're spending on those 2 shuttles and the overhead costs and everything, something like a microtransit shared, not using those vehicles, using Uber or Lyft kind of a thing, will actually give us way, way more than what we're paying our worth, is my thought process. How many rides do we have per day?
That varies a significant amount, but I'll have Caleb speak to that.
Sure. Caleb, our transportation planner. Right now, we're averaging about 65 rides a day.
So 65 rides times, like 30, so you're talking about $2,000 that we're paying. If you're looking at 35 times 65. Approximately.
I don't have those numbers.
Yeah, so it's around 1,900 something. So, but the key is, think about it, $2,000, you can, even if you put $10 a ride, it can go to 200 riders anywhere within the town. So that is opening up more, and I'm reliable because I can do it. I can get from point to point. It doesn't need to be I have to wait and go around the thing. Just a food for thought, because this is just becoming too expensive to run this whole show. That's it.
Thank you.
So, great presentation, enjoyed that. So in 2012, we had the Wake County Transit Plan, and the big tagline for that was frequent, reliable service. So our microtransit is really good, but it's not able to provide either of those because we don't have capacity. So we're not frequent and we're not reliable. So kind of leaning into what Mayor Protem said, I want to increase our capacity, not necessarily using Uber or Lyft, because then we'll be overrun. Wake Forest seems to be doing something. It's all their vehicles, but it's really an Uber model. They're going door to door there, and they're reducing their cost per ride, but their costs are going way up. So I think we need a bit of a balance there. I'd say add a 3rd shuttle right off the bat, because then that'll get more riders feeling comfortable that they're going to get a ride, and they'll just be more reliable. So that's my thought there. I think microtransit, we keep on leaning into that. I think we go with deviated fixed route, which is essentially a local route that goes off track a little bit. So those 2, I think, is where we go. So that's essentially a hybrid, which is the 5th.
Yes.
So the bottom 3 is what I'm thinking is where we're going to be heading. Environmental impact, I think, is important. I'd really like us to lean in on Cary and ask them to start getting electric buses. And we don't necessarily need the big ones. We can go smaller and have a smaller carbon footprint. The idea is also to have fewer vehicles on the road. So if we can lean into some kind of car pooling, also, Wake County is providing that, Go Triangle provides that, but we haven't really leaned in on trying to get more people out of their cars or sharing their cars. So that's kind of outside the scope of this, but it's kind of a big thing that I think would help. I'd like to integrate us into the Cary app and the Raleigh app, so people can say, I want to get to Raleigh downtown, how do I do that? Part on the Smart Shuttle over to Park West, catch the Cary to the Cary Center and stuff like that. So right now, people have to do a lot of work to do that. It'd be nice to be integrated into their app. I think we can target seniors. I think Park West is already covered through the Park West, Crescent Point is covered through the Park West one. They have to walk about a block and a half. If we're able to move that even closer to them, great. I'm not exactly sure why we have 2 at Park West. So that's something to look at if we need to close one down in order to make more capacity somewhere else. I think it'd be good to have a stop at Briar Creek. Do we not have one yet? I think.
Are you referring to Briar Chapel or Briar?
Briar Point.
We do not.
Yeah. So I think that'd be good.
Waiting to the end of the study to evaluate.
Because having one at the senior center is great, but we'd love those people to be able to make it over to our senior center, use our programming, and go back and forth. So that would be one that I'd like to see going forward. Add that 3rd shuttle. assist in some kind of carpooling. So those are my thoughts about right now. Yeah, anything that we can do with congestion mitigation by commuter service, get fewer vehicles on the road. I think that's one of our secondary goals, because that's also environmental. So those are my thoughts. Does anyone need a second round, having heard what other people have said? Have you gotten what you need from us?
Yes, sir.
In good shape. I think our planning director might have something to add.
Thank you, Michelle Stegall, Planning Director. I'm going to push you a little bit more on you just made the last comment. Do you have what you need to move forward? Two things I would raise. One, you have 5 different options on the slide. We were hoping to start to narrow that funnel, if you will. We are hitting this part of the project where we are going to start, our transportation project manager calls it the budget burn. And so we want to make sure that we are focused on the right models as we start to spend that money and move into the next phase of the project. And, we're starting to narrow down the options. So if we could narrow that down to 3 or 4, that would be great. Also, I did hear from a number of council members in terms of target rider for the service, kind of everyone. And I'm going to press you on that a little bit. Probably the main reason is the option of commuters. That is not something that this system was never intended to serve commuters. Microtransit on demand by nature, it's not designed to have as much predictability, as you will, as other forms of service. So when we're talking about reliability, I have heard more frequency. I think it would be good to maybe dive into the question of, are you looking for more frequency or something with more of really a fixed schedule? And that commuter question, that ridership or that target audience would be, I think, very different than some of your other target riders. So we want to make sure we're focusing on the right models as we go forward. And so I do want to dive into that question a little bit more if we could.
Okay, to that end, the BRT, we sort of have a general route for that, and that would serve that in a few years. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about the deviated fixed route, which is essentially, it'd probably be going up 54, kind of like the BRT route. How many blocks off that would that go? Would it become like a curb to curb within one of the areas? I mean, because that makes it more attractive, makes it a little bit more like microtransit.
Correct. So that's one of the things we could study is how far deviation we can go. It can be a quarter mile, a half mile, up to 3/4 mile deviation. But the more you deviate, the less reliable and accurate it becomes. So playing that balancing act there. So you do get that benefit of having that local route there. But like you said, it's kind of that hybrid approach with microtransit where you're still within that defined area. And deviation isn't always guaranteed. It's based off of schedule requests. So if the route's running long and you request it that time of, you may not be able to service that. You have to get off at the stop and walk the rest of the way based on best practice. And a question of how do you deviate? Can it be a pre-request or can you request once you get on the bus? Those are questions you also have to think about as we move forward on the deviated fixed route option.
Okay, because this is the first time I heard of like intersections as nodes. So I think that would be an attractive way to do that rather than give the impression that we can do door to door. We can get to these intersections off these main roadways and be kind of shaded area to try to figure it out. So I'm still towards deviated fixed route and microtransit. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that is number 5. That is the hybrid, right? If you combine both of those?
If you combine both of those, it could be a hybrid approach using one vehicle or 2 vehicles for one service and the other vehicle for another type of service. It could be a hybrid approach for that.
Yeah, so what I would love is 1 deviated fixed route vehicle and 2 microtransit vehicles. So adding rather than replacing for one of them. I think I saw Councilmember Fender first, then Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, or I could be backwards. Councilmember Scroggins Johnson first.
And just to confirm for the type of transit rider, you prefer to have more general community support over a congestion mitigation style commuter, based off your comments, correct?
I was thinking that the commuters lean into carpool to try to help them because they have fixed destinations, fixed times. So I think that's the way to address that rather than using a microtransit vehicle for that. So I would think that our fixed route would serve the commuters with a little bit of deviation. So that kind of doesn't give you the answer. I'm kind of hemming and hawing and saying do both.
Got it. I appreciate the clarification on that.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so thank you for pushing us a little bit more gently, ever so gently, on kind of narrowing our choices. It boils down to cost as well as reliability for me. And if you push me, I would say that a route would be acceptable with one vehicle at peak times so that people could use it in the early morning to get to maybe a work or a venue that has morning activity, and from like 3 to 5 or 3 to 6, having a route that way. But during the non-middle of the day or off hours, to offer the microtransit service, and then the other vehicle offering microtransit service. This might be a way of offering a little bit more consistency part of the day for those people that absolutely need to have clear, confirmed timing. And also we could use that as a basis for future study. I guess, did I answer the 2 questions that you had? Okay, good. And my population stands, yes, everybody, but seniors and the young adults and youth would be priority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fender, please.
Yeah, thank you. If I'm gonna provide more focus, I would focus on the hybrid model, specifically having a fixed route with one shuttle and then on demand with a second or third shuttle. I think like the fixed route may not need to hit all the nodes during that peak time. I guess that would be one option to look at. I think the deviated fixed route option is a bad idea because, like you alluded to, it decreases reliability. If I got on there, if I did an on-demand, or if the deviated fixed route, if I got on there at a stop and it's supposed to stop at my destination at a certain time, if then it deviates to another stop, that defeats the purpose of it being a fixed route. And I think people would, I'll leave it there. I think the Uber idea doesn't address the other items we want to address with this, is congestion on our roads and also environmental considerations, because you're not reducing cars at all, cars on the road. As far as who should be the targeted rider, I mean, like Councilmember Sparkins-Johnson said, I think if we had the hybrid route and you had one shuttle doing the fixed route, you would be, addressing the need for commuters. And then the on-demand shuttle could handle the seniors and youth. And I think it'd be a balance. We'd be balancing the needs there.
Thank you.
Okay, I think she wants to hear from all of us. Councilmember Johnson, please.
So I said earlier, the high-frequency route, I would personally eliminate that, so I think I'm kind of I'm going to agree with what I've heard so far. I think I would still keep the local route. I think I would personally like to know if some kind of fixed route would be beneficial. It is the option that gives us the highest reliability, and so as an option, I'd still like to understand that and what it means, but it may come down to, this fine balance between cost and service. So I'm a little worried about that too. But anyhow, but I mean, it's our cost, not the rider's cost. So I would still do the local route, microtransit, and then the hybrid. That would kind of be my choice, but you need to hear from some others. And as far as the target rider, I do agree, I'd like to, satisfy everybody. We can't do that. So I think I would focus more on seniors, those with mobility impairments that need some kind of transit option, and our young people as well. I'd kind of bubble them all up to the top. So I would keep it more local, and I think there are some, like others have said, there are some other ways to help our commuters and focus on that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Garamella, and then Councilmember Rao.
One question I have, one more thing, Kelly, is you said 65 riders, right, per day. At any point of time, how many people are in the bus? At one or two or more than two?
That is something that the app doesn't collect data on. What we do know is that 61% of rides are shared rides.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't necessarily say how many people are on at a time, but what I can say is that a majority of those rides have multiple people on board.
No, the reason I was asking is because, I still would love the microtransit, and in terms of environmental impact, we can put a rule to the Ubers, only EV vehicles, to be used. It's our money when we are using it, giving it to them, so we can set whatever rules we want to put. But I think 2 buses cannot suffice, but at the same time, $35 per ride is way too much. Is the overall, it's the economics will just not work. If there was a lot of people, if you had said like 200 people or 300 people using it, I can see the value coming out and the ridership cost will come down too. But it's what, 3 years into it? I mean, I like the program, it is good, there are a lot of people using it, but how can we give a more boost to it? Something has to change, is in my thought process. And
and I'm going to speak up for Caleb on this one. One of the things we haven't talked about, because it kind of depends on service model to some extent, but I know something he is already thinking about is, depending on the ultimate model, size of vehicles, going to smaller vehicles. There are other options and alternatives that we could look at like that could potentially reduce cost. You don't need CDL drivers. We have a national driver shortage, maintenance. But, what model you're going to go with is the first question to answer. And then we could start to look at, are there other options to provide that type of service and maybe reduce the cost of it?
And I forwarded an email to Brandon. We talked in a one-on-one. Valerie Fucci's office, there's a transportation, funds which are available for transit, or even just building bus stations and others. When I was having my coffee with Kerry Mayer, he said they get a lot of federal funds from, for the Go Kerry and others. So, why are we not pursuing any of those to bring the cost down?
So we are actually get to report for several years to start receiving those federal funds. And so we are just now to the point of starting to receive those funds.
So we are receiving?
That's correct.
And does that decrease our burden of the $35?
It does. So the $35, as you mentioned, is the total cost, and then half of which is paid by the Wake Transit Plan, and then half is through your own budget, and then that'll be further reduced with that federal funding. I don't have those numbers offhand, but that is a portion of the town's contribution to the cost.
And is there, the Wake Transit, to my knowledge, is only a couple of years, right? It will then, it's one more year or something, and then it will stop?
So the Wake Transit Plan is a perpetual funding stream
Is it perpetual?
at 50%. There are discussions to make that a more favorable match to the town, but that is yet to be approved.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Rao, your thoughts?
I mean, I think I've shared most of my thing. I really agree with Mayor Pro Tem's argument, though. I think that the cost concerns me about the $35, but, you know, maybe that could be something we could work on. I really think we need to have higher frequency, something that's getting more people to where they need to go. I'm not saying that we're not doing that now, but I just feel like, given, and I like the point the mayor made about just, you know, I think what you said was reliable service, you know, and that's something I feel like it's reliable, but it's not as quick as we need to get people where they want to go. And I really think across the county, that's what people are looking on for transit. And I think Morrisville, I think, you know, we see what they're doing with, you know, with there is potential with the S line and moving the commuter rail and bus rapid transit, but I think particularly in the western Wake side, Wake County and Morrisville is the heart of that. I think we need to see more options to get residents to where they need to go. And so, you know, I mean, that's just my feedback. I mean, I think that this has been a great program. I think it's a great start. I think we can build on it. I really appreciate the work that you have done, the staff has done. Really appreciate the feedback the residents have given, which I think is really helpful. So I think we can build on that to make it even better. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So we're looking for the next iteration. Do you now have, are we funneled enough, or do you want to just ask us a really directed question and have us do thumbs up, thumbs down? What do you need?
I think we're fine.
Okay. I'm hearing head nods that we've narrowed it to 4 and that the experts here are okay with the 4. So we will continue to
3.5.
we will continue to look into this.
Okay, thank you very much. So the timeline, Connor, when do you come back with next steps and next questions?
So we'll be back here during the draft recommendation stage, which will probably be in the October time period, at which point we'll also have a public touch point there as well. So a few more months before you see us again, but we'll have hopefully a few recommendations that y'all like.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Fellow council members, we have a break scheduled for 7:40. We're going to try to get a public hearing in before then, or do you want to go ahead and keep going for a little while? We'll do the public hearing. We'll stay going on that. Okay. So we're at item 12 now, public hearings. We have one public hearing on the proposed amendment of the zoning map for 1100 Perimeter Park, that is REZ 24-0017, scheduled for this evening. The public hearing will close this evening and is scheduled for action on June 24th, of course, if that's the council's will. I'd like to now invite Josh Michael, Planner 2, to the podium to brief the council. Mr. Michael.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Town Council. Josh Michael, Planner 2. Today, we'll do a consideration of items to amend the zoning map for 1100 Perimeter Park to the conditional office and institutional zoning district. So the applicant request is a zoning map, conditional office and institutional. The applicant is NR Perimeter's Edge LP. The current zoning is corridor commercial. The current land use is office, and the proposed use will be office and research laboratory. The site acreage is approximately 9.38 acres. A little more information about the property. Again, the petitioner and the property owner is NR Perimeters Edge LP. The land use plan designation is general commercial. The current zoning is corridor commercial, and the proposed zoning will be conditional office and institutional. It is inside the corporate town limits. So some background on the surrounding area. To the north, we have office, institutional, and corridor commercial. It's a service station. That's 7-Eleven. To the east, we have the office, and institutional, and corridor commercial, which is offices and vacant land. To the south, we have office and institutional and corridor commercial, which is some restaurants and retail along Jerusalem Drive. And then to the west, we have office and institutional, which is research laboratory and offices. 2021 future land use map designates this as general commercial. General commercial includes commercial centers that provide a variety of goods and services to meet local and regional needs, typically located along primary transportation corridors. This rezoning request is intended solely to allow for the inclusion of a research lab use within the existing zoning. There are currently no improvements planned for the building or site, and as such, the nonconformity clause is not anticipated to be triggered by this rezoning. And if the triggers are met in the future, of course, the UDO will take care of that. Here's a sketch plan of the property. The applicant has offered some conditions. Number one, building height should not exceed 50 feet, They have prohibited some uses on the property, which you can see here. And then, of course, the general boilerplate language that we include with all rezonings. Recently, PZB did meet, and they recommended unanimous approval for the zoning map amendment from corridor commercial to conditional office institutional. Staff does recommend approval of the requested zoning map from corridor commercial to conditional office institutional for the following reasons. One, the proposed conditional office institutional zoning district is compatible with surrounding zoning districts. Two, the requested zoning map amendment would allow for development that is compatible with the developments in the surrounding area, thereby resulting in a logical and orderly development pattern. Three, provides a broad spectrum of local and regional employment that offers economic development opportunities. And four, the rezoning is consistent with the vision and goal of the land use plan, promoting fiscally responsible development by strategically managing and promoting development, and it's fiscally responsible and reflects the needs of residents, local business, and employers. And the applicant does have a presentation that they'd like to present as well.
Is that a different tab?
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of council. My name is Walker Abbott, and I am with Parker Poe at 301 Fayetteville Street, here on behalf of the applicant and property owner, Nuveen Real Estate. I'm joined by my colleague, Matthew Carpenter, as well as Skylar Huth with Nuveen. This rezoning is a straightforward request to expand the permitted uses within an existing building and an existing development. The goal here is to increase flexibility in a challenging office market and reduce vacancy to achieve the highest and best use of an existing development and attract diverse and innovative companies to Morrisville. We appreciate staff's hard work, and so I'll just give a quick overview of the site since they covered it so well. This is at 1100 Perimeter Park Drive. It's about 9.3 acres, and it is currently zoned corridor commercial and located just south of the I-40 and 540 intersection. As you can see on site, there is an existing office and institutional building, which there's a closer look at that building here on this slide. It's known as the Perimeter's Edge Office Building, It was built in 1989 and is about 85,000 square feet. The building is in good condition, there's a lot of life left, and so this proposal is not a redevelopment, but instead the applicant is looking for creative solutions to prevent vacancy in the post-COVID office landscape and respond to market demand in the area. The future land use map designates this site as general commercial, which includes commercial centers that provide a variety of goods and services, and preferred uses include office and institutional. As you can see in blue adjacent to the west, the future land use designation is office, which includes local and regional employment centers with preferred uses including research and development, emerging technology, and life sciences. So taking that guidance from the future land use map into account, we are requesting a zoning district that is consistent with the general commercial designation, but also provides somewhat of a transition to that office designation on the future land use map. So we are requesting rezoning to office and institutional with conditions because this permits the research laboratory use, but also retains office, institutional, and neighborhood services uses that are envisioned by the future land use map. And to be clear, research lab is not the only use that we're proposing here. We hope to retain some of the office and institutional tenants on site in the existing building. Office and institutional does permit many of the same commercial uses that are permitted under the current zoning and are envisioned by the future land use map, including restaurants and service establishments. And office and institutional will remove potentially undesirable uses that are currently permitted under the zoning, such as automobile repair, sales, and service station. And then lastly, the proposed zoning conditions go further by prohibiting additional uses that include sports academy, bus station, indoor kennel and cemetery, and others that are not necessarily consistent with the vision set forth in the land use plan. Here is a closer look at those proposed conditions. We've tailored office and institutional to promote desirable uses that are in line with the future land use map designation goal of providing a variety of goods and services, and office and institutional. Because this is a rezoning to expand uses within an existing development, you're not going to see conditions on traffic or right-of-way or connectivity because they're not applicable here because this is already an existing development and it is already an existing building. If the site were ever to be redeveloped, those issues would be addressed at site plan. And then similarly, a TIA was not conducted for this zoning because the change of use that is proposed here does not have any anticipated increase in traffic generation, and a TIA was not triggered under UDO standards. We also discussed this with staff, and no additional analysis was deemed necessary. The Planning and Zoning Board unanimously recommended approval of this rezoning request because it is consistent with the land use plan. I've put a few of those consistent policies on the slide, and this request also aligns with one of the land use plan key considerations for land availability, which is carefully steering infill development in a way that minimizes impact on surrounding uses and does not overburden critical infrastructure. This request achieves just that by meeting these infill development goals while also promoting some of the economic development objectives on the slide by attracting diverse tenants and businesses within an existing development. This case provides the opportunity to unlock this property's highest and best use, both now and in the future, by permitting a range of innovative office and research lab tenants in the current building, while also retaining neighborhood services for any future development on site. For these reasons, we respectfully request that you approve this rezoning case and are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Garamella, please.
Thanks for the presentation. Couple of questions for me is more fundamentally, what is the reason from commercial to go to ONI, like a conditional ONI? Are you not able to do what you currently have as part of commercial that needs an ONI?
Yeah, so the commercial corridor current zoning does not permit the research lab use. And so the motivation for this zoning request is to permit that research lab use, and to have that in addition to any office and institutional uses.
So is that, some more for Josh, is that not the one that we have on the Macroman corridor? It's the same zoning, or it's?
So on the McCrimmon corridor, there is a mixture of BAC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is BAC not getting considered here?
BAC includes some residential components. I think that we did have some discussion with Parker Poe about BAC initially. And BAC does have a high propensity towards residential. So it's more of that mixture of residential and of course.
I meant to say, I'm not trying to say,
Yeah.
like an alternate, because you're already putting restriction, you could say apartments and residential will not be there as part of it, instead of going for ONI. The reason my ONI going is we're looking at the entire static perimeter part, where the ONI, we're trying to figure out what to do there. And this is kind of, the applicant is coming and saying, I want ONI. So it's kind of an interesting ask, and do we, so in short, they are just an extension of these lab spaces and office spaces that they can be doing.
Well, one other thing, just to backtrack a moment, also there was a recent precedent for across the street from 1100 Perimeter Park, 800 and 1000 Perimeter Park. The town council had approved a rezoning to those properties to OI. So I think there was a little bit of precedent in the area as well that kind of set the stage for this rezoning. The BAC, I'll have to look. I'm not sure if there's also more of a manufacturing component in the BAC, which is something that I think we were trying to avoid in this particular area of town.
So, okay, and then the other question is the restrictions that we are putting. Can you go to the slide when it said 50 feet? What's the need of 50 feet, because it's a single-story building? So does that mean in the future you are like?
OI doesn't have with the standards for OI, there is no restriction on height. So this is just keeping consistent with the current zoning of corridor commercial. So it's just maintaining that consistency.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting because you're trying to rezone an existing building, but also I've been getting told that there's no structural change to the building. Is that correct? And then you're putting not exceed 50. So both are two different things. So this is a zoning restriction you're putting, but if an applicant decides in future state that they want to rebuild this will hold that height, correct?
Absolutely, and I'll just say that these are voluntary conditions offered by the applicant. So staff did agree with this condition. We thought that this was pertinent to this rezoning. Again, part of it is because again there is no restriction on height with OI. I understand what you're saying. The other component is it is an airport overlay A, so we do want to be cognizant of that as well.
And currently, who are the people in that building? Is that?
Are you asking about current tenants?
Yes.
So right now it's a mix of office clients. There's about 6 in the building. I'm happy to go through. There's a sales office for an automobile manufacturer. There's some sort of technology and interconnection, communications equipment tenants. There is the office of a builder, and then a pharmaceutical company that, again, just uses it for the office, but doesn't use it for any sort of research use.
So by changing the current existing 6 clients, will they have to leave any one of them, or they continue to stay, and then you guys will able to attract more people in? That's what it is?
So currently, there is some vacancy in the building. It's just under 20%. And that was kind of the initial motivation at the beginning of this process, was wanting to be able to open up the options of
Got
who spaces could be leased to. So there is no current plan to, have any tenants vacate, but again, just kind of opening up options in terms of leasing.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Does anyone else have any questions before we open the public hearing? Okay, I declare the public hearing open. Town Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak on this subject?
No one signed up in person this evening, and we did not receive any comments online.
Okay, is there anyone here in the room who would like to speak on this subject for up to 3 minutes? Okay, seeing none, staff and the applicant would like us to close the public hearing. I'd entertain a motion to do so at this time.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Wait, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing with my mic on.
Which my mic on? I'm seconding it.
Okay, I have a motion to close the public hearing from Councilmember Johnson, a second from Mayor Pro Tem Garamella. All those in favor of closing public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Any more questions for the applicant? We're scheduled to vote on this on the 24th at our next meeting. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Now we'll go to a 10-minute break. So if you could please reconvene at 8:05, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. to order at this time. We're at item 13. We have one new item scheduled for this evening. We now invite Town Manager Brandon Zudema to the podium. Sir?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Here tonight to share with you a services agreement with the Chamber of Commerce for the FY 2026 fiscal year. A little bit of background as a reminder, and for those watching, the town has had a long-standing partnership with the Chamber of Commerce that goes back years and years. And so for FY 2025, we revisited sort of the agreement that we had along with a separate agreement for some shared services, and everyone involved agreed that it was best to put that together in one document for a services agreement. So we did that last year. You adopted that late last fall. It was retroactive back to July 1st. And it more clearly, I think, defined where our relationship was based on particularly the addition of an economic development director and some changes with the chamber. And so it put in some reporting requirements and also some meeting requirements and what we're going to do to support one another in that relationship. So that worked well. That got implemented. And then once Christy Moser, who was here with us, the chamber president, came on to their staff, she picked this up and worked with it. And then you saw her back in April and with an update that I think my impression was you were pleased with as far as what the chamber was working on in terms of meeting the requirements of this agreement. So from that point, I went back through this agreement and also shared it with our economic development director, Tiffany, who's here to go through it. Christy went through it, reviewed it with her board. And so we've made some changes, but I really think they're minimally in terms of no substantive changes. But I want to take just a few minutes to review what those changes are tonight. And then I'm happy to answer questions. Christy is here as well. And if you get too deep in a direction, I'll drag Tiffany up here as well. So this agreement uses exactly the same model you saw in the FY25 agreement. I've highlighted where changes occur, so I'll talk through those. In the recitals, the first two whereas statements really were just clarified to better define the new relationship. No real change there, just some different language that better explains why we're partnering, what we're trying to accomplish, and how we're trying to accomplish it. And again, Tiffany helped us with that, but Christy has reviewed that, and everybody feels that accurately reflects the relationship we have now. In section 1, we added the reference to economic vitality support, something the chamber is working to help us with, particularly in partnering with both Tiffany and also Amelia in the small business role. So we've added that language there. As you continue down through, you can see there's not a lot of updates to it. Through most of this, the same legal requirements are in there. We did not change any of that. And then we'll get into the exhibits, and that's where we see a few changes. So again, in the small business forum, just updated that reference to talk about partnering with the town to host a staple annual forum that connects small businesses with resource providers. And again, that's a great opportunity for the chamber to bring in some of their membership and for us to use our network, and it's going to be a great collaborative event. Some clarification around what the forums are that the town expects the chamber to host. So that has just been updated to read 4 industry-specific forums and or networking events for Morrisville's targeted industries. Those are listed there. And then again, one event having to be life sciences. And so that gives a little more flexibility to that for the chamber, but it also still achieves what Tiffany particularly and myself are expecting to continue to grow the relationship and also grow work in the community in the context of economic development. And then the next bullet there is related to HUB. And so the chamber will support the town in the facilitation of training for small business owners. That's something that Amelia will primarily coordinate. And again, the chamber will support that. And then on Launch Morrisville, so that is really transitioning from a chamber program to a Wake Tech community college program. So the chamber is either going to lead the coordination or identify the persons that are responsible for that. Again, Wake Tech is the anticipated partner, and so we'll be participating on that planning committee that the chamber will help facilitate. And then also that we're going to collaborate between the town and the chamber to develop and maintain this Morrisville Business Resource Guide that's been worked on. So that's something as a standing resource that particularly our small businesses can go to get help about small business operations, but also questions about how to do that specifically in Morrisville. Going down through, again, just a clarification on the Launch Morrisville program. We're a sponsor if the chamber leads it. If not, we don't have that agreement with Wake Tech, but we could certainly, I'm sure, work out something with them. They've also always been great partners. And then there is going to be a Leadership Morrisville program that will be recognized as a sponsor in. Again, that's the direction the chamber is heading. And once they get closer to figure out what that is and what the sponsorship levels are, we'll have a value there to be determined. Below that, you see that this formerly referenced Power of Inclusion. That program has been changed to Connected Voices. Just again, an adaptation, seeing what the response has been and what the interest has been. So the chamber's been, I think, pretty fluent in looking at those opportunities to change and evolve. Just clarified their current strategic plan. And then their total membership at the beginning of this agreement up through the date of the report is what they'll share. That was just some clarification from the prior one that talks specifically about that agreement. And then the one thing we have changed is in terms to the financial information. So the chamber had asked that their financial information not be made public if we could avoid that. For a variety of reasons. And so Frank and I had a discussion, and we do believe that under North Carolina General Statute, their information can be considered confidential. So what we've changed the language here is that the chamber, Christy, will provide me with that information, so it doesn't have to come through a meeting, and be a public document. And then as I evaluate that, I'll be able to share highlights or points with you that I feel that you need, and that might be in closed session if it's a confidential information, or there may be some of it that's okay to share, but just not the whole document every time. And again, as I've cited the general statute there as to what allows that to be confidential information. Again, the chamber will provide the manager with, rather than council, with copies of their innovation fund and chamber annual financial reports. This did formally reference a financial audit. The chamber did ask that if we cannot require a full audit, that's very expensive for them, $7,000 to $8,000. And they're trying to fine tune their budget. So they have hired a new CPA, different from the person or the firm they've used in the past. That CPA has indicated they're more than happy to come and answer questions if you have them, or talk to you in a closed session if appropriate. So if you're okay with that, my recommendation is that we let them give us their financials, and then if we think there are any questions, we can address that through their CPA rather than requiring that full audit of them. Again, we'll ask them to provide a copy of their operating budget subsequent to when they adopt it. And then any requests for future fiscal year allocation, we're just making sure that they request that of us no later than March 1st of the current year, so we know that we can include that in budget considerations. So as we prepare the FY27 budget in the spring, if Christy and their board feel like they want to ask for something more because of a specific program or just operational, they would do that before March 1st so that staff could include that in our discussions with you about what that might look like. That is it. That's the highlights. Again, really just clarifications in language. The only real change is that the financial information will come through the manager rather than directly to you to avoid it being a public docket. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Christy is also happy to answer any questions.
Do any council members have any questions for the town manager or for the president of the chamber? I think we're all very pleased with the progress that's been made and the continuing forward momentum. So please keep it up. And Tiffany, thank you for working so closely with her and getting all this going. Town manager, good job. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And if I may, just really quickly, commend Tiffany and Amelia and certainly Christy. They've quickly set off on a really strong working relationship. I think I've got a strong working relationship with Christy. I see her a little bit more right now based on where we're working out of. But we get together monthly and make sure that we're talking and communicating. I'm still a part of their board, ex officio. So I think we've got a good positive trend with this relationship that will only grow in the future. So thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, at this time we are at full listing of events. For upcoming events, please see the town calendar at www.morrisvillenc.gov for upcoming things. And also please sign up for our next week in Morrisville. That's available online. It comes out every Friday. Very helpful. For council and manager comments, we're going to have Councilmember Fender sharing first and be followed by Councilmember Rao, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a couple comments. wanted to first thank the staff for hosting the third year of the Pride event on Friday. I was at the very first Pride event. Unfortunately, I was unable to be at this one since I was out of town. Also want to thank our council member Robati for being a part of the individuals that protested the anti-LGBTQ plus vendor and formed a wall around his tent to prevent his anti-rhetoric to affect anyone else. Given the number of emails we've received with feedback, I do think we need to look at our vendor policy and see what can be done to limit a individual participating that's really not in the spirit of the event. Whether we are able to limit participants to non-political as opposed to, this guy wasn't even truly a vendor. So I would like to look at what we can do there, because I gotta believe there's something, because these, given the flyer that he has handed out in the past, I mean, this is, I'm gonna quote from it. "It would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were thrown into the sea." I mean, that is suggesting violence and could be considered hate speech. I don't think we would support or we would allow, for example, the KKK to be at our Juneteenth event, and I don't think we should allow this vendor at our Pride event. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rao, followed by Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
Yeah, just a few comments. First of all, I want to wish everyone a happy Pride Month. And this evening we had a young member, Samnavik Naramula from Troop 393. They left early, but I want to acknowledge the fact they were here. It's always great to see Boy Scout troops here. I did want to say just a couple things. I attended the Gibson Play Park at Dick's, and I would really recommend the council to go look at it. It's unbelievable. I know we all value nature and preserve and open space. $70 million public-private partnership, unbelievable. Want to congratulate the Dick's Conservancy, Mayor Cowell, and the council. It's unbelievable and really, really great achievement for the region. Gives us a model to look at in terms of how we can invest more in open space. I want to thank Karen for a wonderful gala, and that was last week. And I did also want to, just last two things, I really want to commend Brandon, Sing Development, and Tiffany and the team for wonderful presentations at the Wake Tech last week. It was just an amazing update, very engaging, very informative. And then finally, I was in DC last week for business, but I was able to attend the U.S.-India Partner Forum, and it was all about talking about the collaboration between India and the U.S., and I think there's just a lot of economic development opportunity here in Morrisville to do that. So I'm going to give some feedback to Tiffany on what I learned from the conference. But that's all I have for now, and looking forward to a good rest of the meeting.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, followed by Mayor Pro Tem Garamilla.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say a few words about the recent Pride Festival that Morrisville did sponsor over the weekend. It was very difficult to navigate the vendor process for this event. And I think that we are very lucky that nothing bad happened and there was no injuries or any sort of confrontation because of the mitigation strategies that were put into place. However, I do agree with Councilmember Fender that we need to look at this event and other events that we have vendor participation and understand what is fair and appropriate for participation in these events. And it's a difficult balance to ensure that as a government entity, we are complying correctly. But I think this is very worthy of exploring for this event and other events that we do sponsor. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Garamella, followed by Councilmember Johnson.
No comments.
Councilmember Johnson, followed by myself.
I just want to say happy graduation to all our high school graduates that are, I think some already, some that already have graduated. And we have some more coming up in the next 2 weeks. And of course, happy graduation to all our college graduates from last month. And then I also want to say happy Pride Month to all my family and friends. I wish and celebrate with you the happiest of Pride. So, thank you.
I will speak, and then I don't know if Councilmember Rabadi is online. Might want to make comments if you want to check with her, but I'll go ahead.
Don't think she's come on yet, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, sir. So yes, happy Pride Month, celebrating Juneteenth coming up soon. And as Councilmember Johnson said, I've been enjoying various high school graduations. Congratulations to everyone, and best wishes as you continue your life's journeys. Town Manager Zuderman, do you have any comments from staff?
Just real quickly, I'm going to add an item to the agenda, on the 24th. We had the proclamations before the meeting today, so I've sent you some information in the weekly email last week that we just want to circle back, I think, and make a decision on how we're going to address those going forward. So just if you have thoughts about that, feel free to share those with me in advance if you'd like to, but we'll put a work session discussion on the 24th. We're a little light time-wise, so we can get 15 or 20 minutes to talk about that and see if there's a resolution.
Great, thank you. Moving to tonight's work session then. We have one work session scheduled this evening. We now ask Aaron Hudson to the table to facilitate our discussion. So we're all going to head down there. Please should we bring our microphones and our blue placards? Yes, please. So let's.
I can't barely carrying everything around.
Raul always like
Spreads out.
Understood. What will be your designation when you start this?
Quite the reputation, Steve.
Steve took my seat.
Oh,
It's okay, I have it on my right hand.
You know, Ann's not here, so you can do
sorry,
this.
it wasn't my turn. I thought you guys were here when we showed. Sorry.
You're okay, Steve.
It's okay, I'll wave to all of you.
What's from there?
You're not asking any questions, then I'm not acknowledging.
Discussion.
Wow, good.
Where his blue card was, and he still doesn't ask questions.
Oh, yeah, I didn't bring my blue card.
I'll passing it to town manager. Passing it to Town Manager Zuderman to get us started, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening again. So just a moment perhaps of professional privilege. in regards to our speaker here. So she's listed on the agenda if anyone is looking as the strategic performance manager, but this is my first opportunity to publicly congratulate her as our new communications and outreach director as of yesterday. And from the email I sent you earlier, you've seen she's already jumped in, which is fantastic. So again, congratulations to Erin. Has been with the town almost a decade, has done anything and everything we've ever asked of her, particularly this last year where she didn't strike me, which I appreciate, and she stuck around through that. So she's done a lot for us, supporting the clerk's office and still fulfilling her strategic performance role, as you will see tonight. So congratulations, and thank you all for your support of that decision. And then I'm going to turn it over to Erin. You'll recall this is a follow-up from the prior conversation where Erin is going to bring you back a couple of options based on your feedback from that prior meeting. Erin?
Thank you, Brandon, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for giving me some time with you all tonight. So Brandon is correct. This is a follow-up conversation that really began with your April 22nd work session. Forgive me, I'll be looking backwards and forwards just so I can make sure I don't miss anything on my notes. So we're going to do a real quick sort of recap. I'll ask that you hold your questions to let me get through my first few slides, and then we'll jump into our discussion. So I do want to talk really quickly with you all just a little bit about how we've gotten through this process. And so what you see on the screen there in front of you is really just a quick timeline of where we started and where we are. So community input has been a constant critical component of this process since our very first strategic plan in 2018. There on the top of the screen, the 2018 to 21 timeline illustrates our first initial plan adoption and that first revision. And then across the bottom, 2023 to current is really how we have sort of taken the steps in our most recent process. So with that being said, what we're also going to do is jump into a few things to set the stage and keep you in the frame of mind for tonight's discussion purposes. So for this discussion, really want us to focus on those words in all caps. That's going to give you the direction that we are really envisioning for the next level of Connect Morrisville. Just a reminder that we have layered this process intentionally to build on information, build on data, to really allow Connect Morrisville, our organization level plan, to be our biggest, our broadest, our highest level plan intentionally, because it is at that organization highest level. We need to be strategic. We need to maintain that plan information at a high level, focus on long-range visionary work, think policy, procedure, guidance. We want it to be long-lasting. If we have too much detail included, then we're going to get outdated too quickly. We also have some comfort in knowing that we have those department level plans that are going to be aligned, and that has our operational detail there so that we can always refer back to get that more detailed information. Also, we can't plan just for the here and now. We have to be able to look to the future and plan for the unforeseen. Again, those operational items are captured in our department plans. Those have some established timelines for review as well. We also want to be able to streamline. This is something that we really started with that 2021 process, and we've taken out a lot of our quote unquote example language that we had included. Really wanted to understand where we needed to clarify, refine, define. We didn't just take a red pen and start striking through. We were very intentional with any adjustments that we recommended, looking for those redundancies between any of our elements within the plan, also between the organizational plan and our department level documents. Really want to make sure that we're being clear and concise in our communication. We also want to seek. We want to figure out what's most meaningful, what's most powerful, what's measurable and applicable to Morrisville. We've had these discussions internally with staff. I know Brandon has had some of these discussions with you all as well. There's a lot of information out there that's really good to know, it's really great to have, but it might also be captured in other areas. Like our annual comprehensive financial report has a wealth of information. We don't always have to reiterate and duplicate that in other areas. If we can point to the parent source of other things, that's what we want to make some efforts at. Also want to be mindful if we don't have current processes or procedures in place to track or capture or measure certain data that we want to have in the future, that's where we need to start. We want to start with those processes and those elements. So with that said, want to move into a little bit more of a high-level overview of what some of these revisions could potentially look like, and I'll get into the detail shortly. So starting with our objectives, if you'll remember, we did not modify the mission, vision, 4 core values, but starting here with our objectives, and this is really what you can consider as the what component of the plan. What is it that we intend to accomplish within a specified goal? We've got 6 goals, and then under each of those, we start with the objectives. The only major changes that we've made to any objective is to start removing that linear alignment. What we did in our last plan was with goal number 1, there was objective 1.1, and then the initiative had to align with 1.1. That lost a little bit of purpose along the way. So one of the things we've discussed internally is also with our department plans, all of the elements need to support the goal, not necessarily the element prior to it. So we've just sort of said, we'll do away with that alignment and we'll find other ways to ensure that we've at least captured some staggered numbering. So that's probably the biggest change that we've made there with our objectives. So again, this is going to be high level, and then we'll jump into the detail in just a moment. With our initiatives, the how component of our plan. So if our objective is what we want to accomplish, our initiatives are how we plan to accomplish that work. With these initiatives, they should have a little bit more detail than an objective, but still not super detailed. We've removed some of those initiatives that are going to be captured or collected at our department level or that are extremely operational in nature. Again, being mindful to keep this high level. And then moving to our outcome measures. This is, again, a measure of progress towards any of our specific goals. Measures allow us to make data-driven decisions, and I think that's a consensus amongst staff and council that we want to be able to do that. We have had some outcome measures that we've not had a lot of data for, or that we've not had good, sufficient methods for capturing data. And so we want to be sure that we're not holding space for something that we can't truly deliver on. If a measure is not informing a decision or a choice, we don't necessarily want to always have that holding a space. We want to focus again on those things that are meaningful and that really serve us and that really desire or that really drive the time for us to capture and measure and report on those data points. We're going to continue to look for gaps in data and information that can be meaningful to staff and useful to our community. We are likely going to have different approaches to measures. We've had some measures in our organizational level plan in the past. We're going to look a little bit different this time around because we're going to have some of those, and we're also going to have some of those department developed metrics because they have an organizational impact. So those are going to be sort of leveled up. My words, not anyone else's. Also, if you'll pardon my oversight, I had originally drafted this document when planning to bring this forward to you at a prior meeting. So we don't have outcome measure data to share with you this evening for the plan, but we will plan to have that information for you at the July 8th meeting. So that last bullet is my oversight. I'll talk very quickly about our department plans. Again, we're going to continue to have that regular tracking with those. It includes our department operations, some process information, some of that long-range project detail. We're working to get that information updated internally in our software and still, as I mentioned, having that discussion on a broader purpose or a broader platform of how we can share that really with the community and in a better way with the public. A few proposed changes for our department plans, really having that intentional alignment with their department operating budgets to create some intention and some deliberate enhanced usefulness to our departments so that these plans are really meaningful to them. When you tie something to, let's be honest, when you tie something to somebody's money, they're going to pay attention to it. So as departments are going through and managing their operational budgets on a regular basis, it's going to be tied to their departmental plan. So they're going to be thinking about that, and it's going to make more sense, and it's going to be more intentional and useful for them. As mentioned on the prior slide, some of the outcome metrics that our departments have developed are going to be elevated, and they're going to be leveled up where they have that organizational impact. Our department plans also will have an annual review, not necessarily a revision, but as they're going to be tied to our department budgets, they come up for review annually. We're going to be looking at those and determining if there's anything that may need to be adjusted or realigned. Again, not necessarily revised, but they will have that regular review and revision process. So high-level key updates, just again, more detail to come. Define and refine, I think, has really been sort of the key phrase here. Words matter. You'll see on the next several slides a lot of the highlighted elements where we have really just reworded, rephrased, maybe reordered, restructured. Things may have only been tweaked with a couple of words, but it's really intentional. So I think everything that you're going to see, you'll understand and recognize the impact that that's going to have. Okay, so at this time, we're going to jump into the discussion about the proposed revisions that we've got under each of our 6 goals, and I'm going to pause at each one, and feel free to ask me any questions, and we'll go from there. So starting with goal number 1, on the left-hand side, you're going to see the current plan language for the goal. There are some highlighted blocks around the proposed areas of change. On the right side of the image, you're going to see the highlighted reflected areas of any rephrasing, refinement, new language. A couple of points here. We have proposed to use mobility versus switching between transit and transportation. We can be specific where needed, but just using the word mobility at the highest level. This is one of 2 goals that have a proposed adjustment to the goal name and the goal descriptive statement. Also want to just note that it may look like a lot of highlighting. It may look like there's been a lot of change, but as I mentioned, it's been really intentional. It may just be a couple of words tweaked here or there, or a couple of phrases tweaked here or there, but this has really been our opportunity to streamline and synthesize and ensure that we're using the right words and the right phrasing and in the right place. So again, I've highlighted there on the right-hand side what the proposed update would look like. Happy to answer any questions, talk through anything anyone has. All right, I'll take that. All right, goal number 2. So same thing, left side blocked around what is proposed for change. On the right side, the highlighted areas are the proposed changes. This is the second of the 2 goals that has a proposed change to the name and the descriptive statement. So again, very sort of small changes, but we think it's very intentional. The proposed change to the name here is, instead of Thriving Livable Neighborhoods, we're proposing Sustainable Livable Community Growth. We think that's reflective of the sustainability focus, planned intentional development, things of that sort, really speaking to those elements within the goal. And that's sort of the big ticket one here. Any questions or comments or concerns? Again, also happy to address.
I like it.
All right.
I do have.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
So I do have one question, just on logistics here. So what does it mean that on the left side, objective 2.2 is highlighted, but then on the right side, it's not?
So on the left side, that's what our plan looks like in its current state. And that's what we were just sort of blocking out because we're proposing to change that. And on the right-hand side, that is what the proposed will look like. So objective 2.2 on the right side doesn't necessarily map back to objective 2.2 on the left. Does that answer your question?
Think so. So like objective 2.1 is highlighted on both sides. Does that mean the objective is still the same, but the words have been streamlined?
So objective 2.1 on the left side is identify and expand housing options, et cetera. It actually appears in a different place on the proposed update. We have moved it to an initiative because it better falls within an initiative element focus.
Okay.
Versus an objective.
So 2.1 on the right side is new.
Correct.
That also switched out from an initiative to an objective. So Aaron's really dug in, I think, and looked. Breaking my own rules here. I think Aaron has really dug in to take a look at, how did these work before? And, what really is your larger overarching objective? And then what are those things you do, initiatives to try to reach those objectives? So she spent a lot of time going through this and again, hearing from you, hearing from the community and others to make this, I think, a little easier to digest and a little more straightforward.
Okay.
Okay, all right, we'll move on to number 3. So from here forward, no additional recommended changes to any of the goal names or descriptive statements. But similarly, you'll see left to right where we have blocked out areas that we would propose making changes to. And then on the right-hand side, you see highlighted those recommended changes. Any questions, thoughts, considerations?
Looks good.
All right, love it. Okay, goal number 4. So no change here again to the goal name or the descriptive statement. I will point out a little bit that we have modified some of the phrasing and terminology because again, we know that words matter. We want to ensure that when we say public safety service needs, we're thinking and understanding, and our community is understanding, we are thinking long-term. We're thinking policy. We're thinking planning. We're thinking about equitable public safety services to our entire community, things of that sort. So really dug into, as Brandon mentioned, the feedback from you all, the feedback from the community, additional research, making sure that our phrasing really matches our intention here. And that takes silence as agreement. Moving on. So goal number 5, you will notice that most of what is on the right-hand side here for operational excellence is highlighted. It's not because it's all brand new, but a lot of it just moved. Maybe between outcome measures, initiatives, objectives, some of it broken up or added to, just to give it a little more meat and a little more structure. I'll also say that most, if not all, of our departments already have some planned metrics around some of the work here. Senior leadership, of course, is going to ensure that our staff is carrying out our work, but just I want you all to know that the work that our departments have done to ensure what they are doing at their level aligns back with our organizational work prior to really even knowing what adjustments were to come, really gives awareness and acknowledges the forethought that I think your department head leadership team puts into their work too.
Yeah, I like how these initiatives are more specific rather than the ones on the left are a bit vague.
Okay. All right, economic prosperity. So this one is going to be bright yellow. And I will have to say that a lot of this was edited and rephrased. And I have to tip my hat to our economic development director with the support of our small business support specialist. Just a lot of really good feedback from that team to really help me understand and learn more about the specifics there, and a lot of good recommendations. Again, we had a lot of good information in our plan already, but the contributions that they shared were very, very helpful, and I'm very appreciative of them.
Yeah, this is excellent. The wording is very good.
Good, good.
No, it's excellent, not very good.
All right. Okay, I think this next slide is where you all are not going to be like, yay, great, let's move on. Okay, so council will remember that your discussion began at your April 22nd work session about some possible greater recognition of sustainability within the organizational level plan and what that might look like. So staff has prepared 2 proposals for your discussion and consideration this evening. The first is before you. It would be a new additional goal, approaching sustainability in a holistic way through the sense of organizational resiliency. What that means is really a local government's capacity to plan for, respond to, recover any type of disruption. That can be a natural disaster, it can be an economic downturn, it can be a public health crisis like COVID, cyber threats, an infrastructure issue, any number of things, while being able to maintain operations, protecting our public resources, maintaining fiscal stability, maintaining our operations, I said that twice, and maintaining stability within the community. Some of the things to consider within this goal are the elements of resiliency or organizational sustainability, if you want to think of it that way. It's economic, it's social, it's operational, it's governance, it's environmental. It's no one specific thing. It's a lot of things, and that's why I refer to it as holistic. This goal, of course, has some new language and some elements that we would propose be pulled from other existing goals because it would better align here. And those are highlighted as well. So this is, again, proposal number 1. Happy to answer any questions, talk through this with you all. But this is sort of using feedback you all gave. This is one approach we wanted to bring back, and then we have another approach on the next slide as well.
I like the use of resiliency.
I was just gonna say that.
Okay.
Adaptive, yeah.
All right. Okay, so proposal number 2 is, it looks a little bit clunkier right now. I know.
But there's no yellow.
No, there is no yellow. That's because all of this is already in existence. So proposal number 2 is all of our current plan elements that have any sustainability focus: economic, social, operational, governance, environmental, any of the above. So proposal number 2 would be identifying any of those sustainability elements within our plan currently and within those proposed changes moving forward for our final plan product. It wouldn't look like this, but this is just capturing, sort of what we identified. We could reference those elements with an image, a code, a color, because I think it would be important to highlight, this is economic sustainability, this is environmental sustainability, this is social sustainability. anything like that, especially if we want to make sure that we're being intentional in calling that out. So this is another approach to that sort of same sustainability effort. The prior proposal is more of a resiliency. This is more of identifying what we're doing currently, and then we would continue to identify it moving forward.
This is the first time that this has been properly mapped out.
Councilman, thank you.
This is the first time this has been properly mapped out, and I commend you for doing this, because it's been something we've all gotten, wrapped around the axle on, not completely having, a full picture of all the efforts. And we can also do a cross-check on our sustainability plan, just to kind of see if that plan is still, current, and that plan might need to be updated based on some of this. So there's a bit of cross-checking that we can do. I like this approach. This might actually be like an addendum to the strategic plan to ensure that we don't lose the messaging that we're trying to bring out as well. So, thank you.
Could be.
So I
Councilman
think
Feather.
on this, whichever one we do, like if we go with proposal 2, I think we need to use the term resiliency in this case as opposed to sustainability. Because, and I promise I won't freak out and walk out of here this time, but sustainability means 2 different things. In this case, when you're talking about, where did I just see it? About departments with first responders, such as police, our master sustainability plan has nothing to do with that. To me, this is like how you separated it, operational resiliency. I think we need to keep, like you were saying, words matter. To other people, sustainability just means environmental. And I get what the other council members want to see here, but to me it's more, I see that as resiliency. It's a different definition than sustainability. Like I like how goal number 2 has been expanded, where I feel like the sustainability environmental efforts is addressed in goal number 2. But like if we go with adding the new goal, I mean, that's operational resiliency, and that's addressing some of the concerns like Councilmember Johnson had. And you guys tell me if it doesn't make sense. To me, when we're talking about this, we need to use the word resiliency, and sustainability is for environmental sustainability.
So if I'm hearing and maybe even interpreting a little bit deeper what you're saying, would you advocate for both proposal number 1 and number 2? So adding an organizational resiliency goal, but also having an identified sustainability addendum, mapping, whatever it is? Or am I reading too much into that?
Yeah, I could go for that too, except call it resiliency within each goal. Because like I said, the first responders pursuing continuous improvement, that does not fall under the scope of the master sustainability plan.
Correct. It's not environmental sustainability.
Right. That's why I think we need to use the word resiliency here in place of sustainability to differentiate what we're talking about.
Councilmember Johnson?
So, yeah, I would keep both proposals. Let's start there. I would keep both of them. I think this is really good information. I think this chart we have in front of us is great information, and whatever you call it, I think, honestly, I think you could call it, I'm trying to figure a way to keep both words in there, but that probably doesn't make sense. So I'm sorry, I'm thinking as I'm talking too. So are you talking about having this chart as an add-on? Or are you talking about each one of these blocks being incorporated into the goals that you have identified? So this chart really wouldn't even exist with a label.
So my initial thought was that we would have a label of some sort. It might be a color, it might be an icon within the current plan and the plan moving forward. So just thinking off the top of my head, maybe those elements that are aligned with environmental sustainability, maybe they have a little green leaf beside them. Maybe the items that are aligned with economic sustainability have an upward trending arrow or something to that effect. And I'm just thinking totally off the cuff. To delineate those that way. I was not considering that a chart would be embedded in the plan, but I am not averse to keeping a chart and having that be an amendment if that appeases and makes sense to council.
No, I like what you just said about identifying different things with different icons so that you could do that with a whole lot of other things too, but I'm not advocating for that. Let's stop right here with the two you just said, and that would highlight some things for folks. I think that's fabulous. I think that's good.
So it appeals to people who may not read as much into a plan, but they pick up on an image, they pick up on a graphic. And then they say, okay, well, what does this little leaf mean? And then they go to wherever the legend is of that. And then they say, okay, well, what else has this beside it? And then they only go and they scan for the leaves.
That's good.
So just different ways to think about it. It doesn't have to be decided at this moment, but I think lots of approaches.
I just wanted to respond to
Sorry.
this. You just changed this up a little bit. The way I think is when I'm reading on an electronic screen, I can't summarize unless I see a picture. That's why I had suggested that be an appendix. Because even though you're doing all this color coding and symbolism to try to draw people's attention to key areas of the document, there is no summary electronically unless you provide that visual chart for people. And that's just clarifying my position of why I said an appendices would be helpful. So.
That's good. Good feedback. Mayor Colley?
Yeah, I think this as an appendices would be really strong.
Mayor, will you put, thank you.
Indeed, thank you. I think this as an appendix would be really strong because then people can see how dedicated we are to the resiliency of the thing. And I really like the format of proposal 1. It fits the other goals and it's a good place to sort of see everything and how it's, so I really like essentially both, but I really like to have the 7th goal incorporated because I think that would really show everyone how resiliency and how COVID, Helene, how we're actively preparing and being proactive about trying to be hardened against future challenges.
I am very on board with both. Honestly, I wasn't sure how you all were going to make the decision between the two or what you may want to do. Bless you. I like both approaches, and I think both have merit. So I think good feedback. Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
I'd just like to say in reflection that it's because you did an enormous amount of work with all of the staff helping you kind of really fine tune and polish this document that we don't have the comments tonight, because we're all in with strategy and moving our town, even further up the chart. Thank you for all of this work. Director, we are so proud of you.
Thank you.
So, big win here from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, if you think it looks good already, you just wait, because we're going to talk really quickly about what I felt was a really, really great response from the community outreach and engagement. I think you all know how solid our community is and how engaged they are, but I think it's really important for you all to see how aligned they are with you and your priorities. So we had approximately 225 engagements between in-person facilitated discussions, drop-in sessions, advisory committee direct presentations, town events, our survey. All of our participants were given very similar formatted information so that we could have consistency. Regardless of how they engaged, we could get the same type of feedback and analyze it in the same fashion. So they were asked to identify their personal priorities and their priorities aligned to their role within the community. And if you'll recall, those priorities that they were given were also the priorities that you all had established within your budget discussions over the last couple of years. The top priorities for each of those selection groups are noted on the left. Not surprising, quality of life and safe community, high above all of the others. So we also asked participants to rank the goals in order of priority for them, what's most important to what's maybe not as important. Not least important, but what really resonated with them, and then what didn't resonate maybe quite as much. Nearly all of the participants specified some sort of reordering of the goals related to themselves or their role in the community. The graph shows the frequency of each goal being selected as number one or top importance. So goals number 2 and number 3 really speak to quality of life, those related elements. And of course, goal number 4 is public safety readiness. So that just really reinforces what we saw there on the previous slide. We also collected some brief demographic details within our survey and within our advisory committee outreach. Again, as I mentioned, we had 225 engagements, but we had 104 who provided demographic responses. So I thought this information was interesting, and that's why I've included it here. For those who responded with their residency information, 55 of the 104 have lived in Morrisville 10 or more years. 49 have lived in Morrisville 9 or fewer years. So it was almost a near even split. The largest group of those responding have lived in Morrisville 20 or more years, followed by those who've only lived in Morrisville 2 to 5 years. So I think it just shows you how the trends and the changes are in our community with the representative group that we have here. As far as age, 62 of the 104 respondents are 45 or older, and 45 of the 104 respondents were 44 or younger. Our largest age responding group here was 35 to 44, followed by 65 plus, which I know is not surprising to any of you because we have a very active and engaged senior community. For the best fit category, we asked folks to let us know, really, where do you see yourself in Morrisville? Is it that you work in Morrisville? Are you a property owner? We didn't limit them to choosing only one unless we were engaging with them in person. So on the survey, they could pick more than one. But the top 3 there, property owner far and away took the most responses, followed by support and community organization worker, and then followed by working in Morrisville. So again, just sort of interesting to see the background there.
So what's the support
Sorry.
and community organizer?
So folks who may work in a nonprofit or may work in any sort of a support area within the community, it was meant to be very sort of general so that they could, again, self-identify with what really most reflected them.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so bringing us back full circle here to decision points, and I think you all have already given really your direction there. We're going to go with both proposal number 1 and proposal number 2. I think it's a great option. I think I might also be of the same mind as Councilmember Johnson. It might make sense to have the addendum also with the descriptor coding in the plan. That might just make it easier for folks who have different ways of learning and reading to best understand. Want to just circle back and get consensus on if everyone is okay with the proposed goal, name, and descriptive statements that we recommended adjusting for goals number 1 and number 2. I didn't hear any opposition to that. So the last question I put in here is really reflective of this slide. And that would be if council would support either removal of goal numbering or reordering the number of the goals. So part of this is based on this direct feedback that we got. And another part of it is based on, we just had a handful of questions during the feedback process of, are the goals appearing in order of importance or order of preference? And they're not. That's just the order of the goals. So did just want to see if there was consideration or strong preference for any of that thought. Councilmember Johnson. Excuse me, Scroggins Johnson.
Hey, you can call me Vicky. I think that numbering helps me kind of know specifically which goal I'm referring to. But I am very open to you renumbering the goals to the top goal with the response, bar chart that you showed. But I do like the redundancy of having a goal number and a title. We're also getting used to new titles, so it might be confusing just having a discussion about which one we were actually talking about. So just renumbering them, I think, would help both, the public as well as the staff.
Thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
So I'm okay with renumbering them too, based on public feedback. I love the idea of not numbering them for what you just said, so that folks don't think that they're really in any kind of, because the ranking could change over time as we engage with the community more and more. But so I'd like no numbering, but I think that's hard to, I think goal numbers and objective numbers and initiative number kind of track. And so I worry about tracking. So that I think you can't get away from. I was trying to think, well, what you could use the alphabet, but it's the same thing. I mean, so you really can't. You could do different colors, but that doesn't work either.
We've run out of
So
colors.
I'm open to renumbering it too.
Okay.
I agree.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
Mayor Colley.
Yeah, I agree. Renumbering is fine.
Okay.
Maybe have a little note that they're not in any order of importance or anything, just to prevent that question going forward. But.
All right. Okay, so very quickly, we're at the end here. So next steps, everything in blue is what we've already accomplished. Our green arrow is where we are tonight. Where we are next is July 8th is when I'll be coming back before you with a final draft with all of your incorporated recommendations. And then following that tentative approval, that's when we'll really get to work with all of sort of the post work. So if you'll recall, with our last update, we developed a true comprehensive document. So now we would be able to add this addendum to it and update those types of things to really give the public and staff and you all a true, real comprehensive plan document to reference and to work from. But I really appreciate you all. I appreciate your discussion and your feedback tonight. Appreciate all of your support and your comments throughout this process. It's been a long time getting back to this seat and this point, so thank you for sticking with it. Definitely appreciate that. Yes.
I have one last thing about, eventually, my aspiration and hope is that we don't have to wait till we have all the metrics to start populating metrics and sort of see how this will inform our decisions going forward using data. So I just want to say that don't have to wait for perfect to get us going, and then we can give feedback as we go.
Yeah, fair point. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This was a lot of work. It is really easy to react to something that is put in front of us, but I know the amount of work that goes into crafting this and wordsmithing and all the hard work that goes into thinking about every single word. So thank you, Aaron. You did an exceptional job.
Thank you. Mayor Potem Garamella.
No, I said I will not use my card, and I stuck to that, and good job.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well done, Director of Communications.
Thank you.
Love that too. Anything for the good of the order before we enter our closed sessions? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to enter closed sessions at this time.
Mayor and council, pursuant to North Carolina statute 143.31.11A3, and Frank, we're also going on personnel, right? Is it attorney A4, right? A3 for attorney-client privilege, and also personnel matter. All right, thank you.
Okay. A motion from Councilmember Rao, a second from Councilmember Scroggins Johnson. All those in favor of entering closed session, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that's 6-0. We are 9:17. We're in closed session. Thank you very much.
I forgot to tell you first.
Shut it down and we'll jump right in.
Okay.